Hey everyone, if you enjoy these recaps, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's get started. The year is 2326. Deep within the Samhan Empire on the wild slopes of the Mount Sirak frontline base, a young man is running for his life. Voices bark after him through the trees. Someone shouts to catch him. Another warns that if they lose him now, they are all dead. Our boy stumbles forward, gasping with his chest heaving. He cannot even wrap his head around what is happening. He has no idea what he did to deserve this. Then a stern voice cuts through the forest, ordering him to stop right there. His name is called out as Kim Tae-ju. Suddenly a sharp pain twists inside his ribs, and he clutches his chest, cursing that his heart is acting up again. He collapses to the dirt, dragging his knees under him and panting hard. The one hunting him finally catches up. He is First Lieutenant Jang In-dong, the platoon leader at the Mount Sirak frontline base, and a low rank Awakened, with the mark of the system carved into his face. He looks down at Tae-ju and mocks him, asking whether running away is triggering his seizures again. He calls our boy a dying mana reject, and tells him his little escape is finally over. Tae-ju forces the question out through gritted teeth. He wants to know why Jang In-dong is doing this to him. The lieutenant looks genuinely surprised. He asks whether Tae-ju is really asking because he does not know. He explains that a reject should have died a long time ago. He demands to know why Tae-ju bothered surviving until 29 and getting on her nerves. Tae-ju's eyes go wide at that word. He murmurs the word her back in confusion. Then his voice hardens as he asks if the lieutenant is talking about Honda Mitsui. Jang In-dong warns him to watch his mouth, reminding him that even if the woman is only his stepmother, she is still his mother. Then the lieutenant lifts his sword. Cold as ice, he simply tells him to die. Tae-ju has no time to move. The blade cuts through him and blood scatters across the leaves. Jang In-dong looks down at the falling body and remarks almost as an afterthought that Lady Mitsui's two sons will now be the ones inheriting the Paju territory. He whispers goodbye to the body. To understand how our boy ended up bleeding out on a frontier hill, one has to look back 300 years. On a certain day in the year 2026, the sun was eclipsed. On that day, mana crashed down to Earth. 90% of humanity was wiped out. The climate twisted, and cities crumbled, and civilization collapsed. 300 years later in 2326, the survivors have adapted to the mana and rebuilt the world. But with the emergence of magical beasts and poisonous plants mutated by mana, a new war has begun. Humanity now sits inside a caste system based on mana aptitude. At the top stand the Awakened, who are marked by a facial tattoo and are the only ones strong enough to fight the great beasts. Below them come the mana-compatible with enhanced physical abilities, then the ordinary mana-adaptive. At the very bottom are the untouchables, called the mana rejects, whose bodies treat mana itself as poison and who rarely live past their 20s. Tae-ju's father is a top-tier Awakened and a master named Brigadier General Kim Woongbang. His father commands soldiers and holds a territory and stands beside a beautiful new wife. Tae-ju, despite being the eldest son of the household, is a mana reject slowly dying from mana poisoning. Around him swirl the names people have called him his whole life. Trash reject and the family's parasite. Incompetent eldest son and mother killer and criminally ill. His consciousness drifts as death takes him. Then strangely he opens his eyes inside a place he has never seen before. A dark, endless space, floating with cold stars and drifting buildings. An old man with long graying hair sits cross-legged in the middle of it. The old man chuckles bitterly, remarking that he tried so hard to become an immortal, but no matter how he looks at it, this cannot be the heavens. Kim Tae-ju notes that the buildings look familiar, but mixed together with bizarre things he does not recognize. He clicks his tongue and asks aloud what those strange things are and where this place could be. Tae-ju can only stare and wonder silently if he is somehow not dead. Then he notices Tae-ju standing there. He asks the young man if he happens to know. The old man tells him to stand up and show his face. When our boy obeys, the elder's eyes widen with a spark of recognition. This old man is the supreme poison demon Tang Gunok, the patriarch of the Sichuan Tang clan, and a legend who reached the pinnacle of poison and hidden weapons. When the demonic cult swallowed the Jianghu, it was he who melted down the heavenly demon, the cult leader himself, with a single handful of poison. That victory made him the absolute master of Murim. By some impossible thread of fate, he is the one who shares the same soul as Kim Tae-ju. In his twilight years, while cultivating to achieve ascension and shed his mortal body, his soul reached across worlds and connected with Taeju's. The instant they recognize each other, Tang Gonok's memories pour into Taeju. Our boy stares in shock and whispers the name Tang Gonok and asks if the old man is truly him. The elder marvels back, wondering if these are Taeju's own memories flooding into him in return. He addresses him by name and tells him that he is Earth's version of the same soul. He notes with sadness that even though Taeju carried the same potential he did, the young man was despised his entire life because of the shackles known as being a reject. The elder finally understands something. He realizes softly that this place is their shared mindscape all along. He tells Taeju that they are one and the same person. Then he offers everything he has, all his experience and all his knowledge. He tells Taeju that if he cultivates with them, he too will become the supreme master of that other world. He tells him to use this power to live his life however he desires. Then, with a warm smile, the old man wishes him luck in battle. Taeju's eyes fly open. He is back on the forest floor, gasping for air. He can hardly believe it and murmurs to himself that it was not a dream. All of the supreme poison demon's knowledge remains inside his head. He stares at his shaking hand and whispers that if he wants to survive right now, he needs the martial art that made Tang Gonok the ruler of Murim, the art that grows stronger the more poison a body swallows. The formless, primordial poison spirit art. Fortunately for him, the mountain around him is crawling with poisonous plants. Taeju drags himself to the closest one and tears it from the soil and chokes it down. His body convulses from the taste. He forces himself to keep eating, telling himself over and over that he has to survive. Slowly, the poison inside him begins to change. Chains of green energy loop around his form as the technique starts its work. If he can convert the poison he consumes into internal energy and form the poison essence, which is a dantian that harbors poison itself, then he can sever the fate of a reject by reconstructing his own body from the ground up. His eyes ignite with a fierce green light. He swears silently that he will survive. He will pay every last one of them back for what they did to him. He will start with Jang In-dong. The wind carries a chill through the dark forest of Mount Siarak as a search party sweeps the slopes with flashlights. The order comes down sharp, telling them they need to confirm the corpse before they leave, and they need to hurry. One of the squad members grumbles as he searches, wondering aloud why it is taking so long to find a single body. Then his light catches something moving in the underbrush. He shouts that he has found him, and that it is Kim Taeju. The platoon leader steps into view with the same smug smile as before. First Lieutenant Jong In-dong greets our boy with a mocking hello, remarking that so this is where he was hiding. But the smile falters. Someone in the squad blurts out in confusion, asking why he is still alive. Another squad member notices something worse. He points out that this guy's aura suddenly feels a bit strange. He asks if this is a mana reaction. Only Taeju knows the truth. His body is no longer running on mana. What flows through his veins now is internal energy built from the poison essence he has been forging inside himself. Jang In-dong barks at his men to kill this mere mana reject quickly before he becomes a nuisance. A dagger flashes toward Taeju, but his body moves on its own, sidestepping the blade with ease. The attacker's eyes go wide. A small smile tugs at the corner of his mouth as he realizes that with this power he can finally do something about them. He straightens up and faces the squad head-on. His voice is calm and almost warm as he tells them it is nice to see them again. Now he can finally pay them back for everything they have done. Jang In-dong's smile curdles at that. He demands to know what is with the relaxed attitude Second Lieutenant Kim Taeju. He asks whether our boy really awakened belatedly, and mocks that he does not even have a rank marking on his face. The young man just murmurs the word awakening back to him with quiet contempt. In this world, awakeners are ranked by the mark carved onto their face. The lowest is user, then beginner, then regular, and expert, and finally master, with a unique marking all their own. Jang In-dong is currently only a beginner. In the terms of the Murim world Tang Gonok came from, that makes him nothing more than a third-rate martial artist. Looking at him now with all of Tang Gonok's memories layered inside his mind, Taeju realizes that this smug little tyrant is really nothing special at all. One of the squad members demands to know if he is done with his last words. Taeju lets a cold amusement flicker across his face. He tells them he will now pay them everything they did to him back in full. Golden coins glint in his hand and streak through the air. The squad blinks in confusion. One of them scoffs that coins mean he must have hit his head when he fell. Then a fresh voice screams that he will kill Taeju this time for sure and orders everyone to attack. As the squad rushes in, Taeju's mind stays strangely calm. Even though this is the first battle he has ever fought in this body, his thoughts move with total stillness. He knows why this is happening. It is because of Tanggunak's memories woven into him. Even though Mana rejected him from the day he was born, the path of the poison demon lives inside him now. He mutters to himself that he can definitely do this. Then the techniques bloom out of him one after another. He unleashes the flying dagger art, and golden hidden weapons cut through the squad with lethal precision. He follows with the phantom mirage steps, and his body becomes a blur, moving between his enemies faster than their eyes can follow. He finishes with the blood seal poison palm, and a wave of green poison energy erupts from his hand and slams into the men, leaving them collapsing where they stand. Jang In-dong stares in horror as his men fall around him. They stammer the word platoon leader over and over as they drop. He rips a mana pistol from his belt and shouts for our boy to die. The gun cracks, but Taeju simply drifts sideways, tilting his head as the shots miss him entirely. He whispers that Jang In-dong is too slow for this. Then his palm slams into Jang In-dong's chest, and green poison seeps into the man's body. The lieutenant staggers and coughs, gasping out the question, asking what Taeju did to him. Taeju tells him plainly that even awakeners are powerless against poison. Jang In-dong grits his teeth. He points out that Taeju clearly does not have a tattoo, so how could he possibly use a skill? Taeju scoffs at the very word and tells him that if Tanggunak heard him call this a mere skill, the old man would be offended. Then he asks how it feels being on the receiving end. He suggests it feels pretty awful. Jang In-dong drops to his knees. His voice cracks as he begs, calling him Second Lieutenant Kim and telling him he is sorry and pleading for our boy to spare his life. Taeju does not answer that. Poison keeps eating through Jang In-dong's insides. The man convulses and chokes out that Taeju has no idea who is backing him. He tries to name her, saying that Lady Mitsui will do something about this, but the poison finishes him before the words can land properly. Jang In-dong collapses onto the dirt. He is dead before he hits the ground. Taeju lets out a small dark chuckle. His eyes are heavy but bright. Softly he says to the corpse not to worry. He has no intention of going down quietly either. The story now shifts far from the mountain to a nation few outside its borders truly understand. The Samhan Empire is a nation founded after the Mana Cataclysm formed by integrating the former territories of Korea and China and Japan. Taeju's hometown of Paju also belongs to the Samhan Empire, and it is a highly impoverished small city that no one would look at twice. In a lavish office in Paju territory, Brigadier General Kim Woongbang is receiving a quiet report from his aide. The aide's voice is careful as he explains that Second Lieutenant Kim Taeju has been discharged. His superior's eyes narrow, and the general demands to know what he means by that. The aide explains there was an assassination attempt on him at his unit. First Lieutenant Jang In-dong and his squad reportedly ambushed him at a cliff during a reconnaissance patrol. Afterward, Kim Taeju, who somehow survived, was officially discharged and has since gone missing. First Lieutenant Jang and his squad appear to have been attacked and devoured by monsters while fleeing. Kim Woongbang exhales a bitter laugh, wondering why on earth they would do such a thing. The aide answers that upon investigation it seems the hit was ordered by Japanese-affiliated officers. Kim Woongbang murmurs the phrase Japanese-affiliated back to himself. His face darkens as a suspicion crystallizes. He asks softly whether it could have been Mitsui behind all of this. This is Honda Mitsui, the daughter of a prominent Japanese family integrated into the Samhan Empire, and the mother of Taeju's half-brothers Taepyeong and Taechan. In order to pass down the Paju territory to her mana-compatible sons, she had always been waiting for the death of Taeju the mana reject. But seeing that he had not died even at the age of 29, her patience must have finally run out. So she asked her father over in her family's Kyushu territory to arrange the assassination. She must have told herself that Taeju was bound to die soon anyway, and that she only had to wait a little longer. Kim Woongbang closes his eyes. This is a serious matter, but Paju's situation is too dire right now. They still desperately need the financial support of his wealthy in-laws. He convinces himself that he has no choice but to cover this up. He tells the aide he understands and that he will handle things from here, and the man may leave. The aide bows and answers yes sir and departs. The general is left alone. He sighs into the quiet room. As a reject, Taeju will die soon anyway, from a mana-damaged soul. Living to the age of 29 was already a miracle in itself. Mitsui's actions clearly crossed the line, but it is best to overlook this for the sake of Taepyeong and Taechun the sons, who will actually inherit the Paju territory. Kim Wongbang stands slowly and gazes out through the sunset-lit window. He murmurs to himself that Taeju has gone missing, and he supposes he will not see him again. In a rare moment of something tender, he tells our boy that he will not come looking for him. He says Taeju should live the rest of his life in freedom. The wind hums across the Mount Jiri magical beast border zone, deep inside Samhan Empire territory. From a ridge overlooking the valley, a small hunting party stops to catch their breath. Below them stretches a sprawling city glowing with green threads of mana. The party's boss is a warm, heavyset older man, with a wide, friendly grin. He gestures at the skyline and remarks that you can see all of Guri at a glance from here. He turns to Taeju and asks whether this is his first time seeing the panoramic view. Taeju answers him honestly that yes it is, and that he has not been here for very long. The boss's face lights up. He says that in that case our boy must not know much about this city yet. Taeju chuckles awkwardly and admits that no he does not. The boss launches happily into the history lesson. Until 300 years ago, he explains, Free City Giri was just a small city in a place people used to call South Korea. Then it was subjugated by the Samhan Empire. Here at Mount Jiri lived an exceptional number of magical beasts that needed to be culled. So the emperor designated Giri as an operations base and declared it a free city. That meant magical beast bypass rights and tax exemptions. It also meant allowances for illegal acts and more. With regulations lifted, awakeners flocked in, and the monster hunts became active. He explains that this is how Free City Guri grew into a prosperous metropolis. It generates over 20% of the empire's magical beast income, turning itself into a land of opportunity for anyone in need of money. Taeju laughs and begs him to please stop and just get to the point already. Then he adds one warning of his own. Guri is also crawling with just as many dangerous criminals, so a man always has to stay on his toes. Taeju bows his head and thanks him warmly. The boss says that if he has any more questions, he can always just ask and that they should get moving. Inside his head, our boy admits that this old man talks a bit too much, but he is a kind person who even offers good advice. To understand how Taeju ended up carrying heavy packs through this mountain, one has to step back a little. Not long ago, after surviving that assassination attempt in the military, Taeju cut all ties following his discharge and searched for a place to grow stronger. The place he found was Free City Guri. The Empire's public authority is weak here, which makes it hard for his family to track him down. On top of that, this land is full of poisonous magical beasts and toxic herbs, making it the perfect training ground for the martial arts he now carries inside him. Martial arts is a term that still feels unfamiliar on his tongue. His mind drifts back to that fortuitous encounter he had right before he died. It was the soul-sharing moment with the supreme poison demon from the martial world, the man named Tang Gunak, who shared his very soul. Along with that came the formless primordial poison spirit art that flowed into him from that meeting. Taeju cannot help but wonder whether Honda Mitsui, the woman who tried to kill him, ended up helping him become something greater instead. He still lacks the strength and money to stand on his own 2 feet. So, for now he is quietly growing, while working as a porter on Mount Jiri, carrying supplies for hunting teams. The boss's voice pulls him back to the present. The man calls out to him and asks who he thinks is the strongest in their party. Taeju hums thoughtfully and says he wonders about that. The boss points ahead. He says that the female awakener up front is Pro Lee, and she carries a solid regular rank. Taeju's eyes widen with genuine surprise. He remarks that she looks young, and that is really amazing. He notes silently that a regular is 1 full level higher than a beginner, and that Jang In-dong never even reached that rank. But then his sharp eyes catch something else. Pro Lee's mana flow is acting strangely wrong. Her breath comes in ragged pants, and she has stopped mid-stride with one hand pressed against her chest. Someone in the party calls out her name in worry. Then a squad member spots the reason and gasps. He warns everyone that it is a mutant three-striped mosquito and shouts for no one to get bitten. Someone in the party calls out her name in worry. Then a squad member spots the reason and gasps. He warns everyone that it is a mutant three-striped mosquito and shouts for no one to get bitten. Pro Lee blinks in disbelief and mutters the word mosquito back. Then she snaps into focus, ordering everyone to move because she will handle it. She raises her palm and hurls a burning sphere at the tiny bloodsucker. The fireball detonates with a small roar and sends sparks scattering into the trees. But it is already too late for her. Taeju asking the boss why they are all making such a fuss over a bug. The boss's face goes grim. He explains that if that mosquito bites you, your mana temporarily disappears. In severe cases, people even faint just the way Pro Lee did. He adds that many parties have been wiped out because of a mere mosquito bite, so it makes sense why everyone is on edge. Taeju listens carefully as his mind flips through the memories the supreme poison demon left inside him. He realizes there is a poison in Tangunok's records that matches this mosquito's description almost perfectly. He crouches beside Pro Lee and asks softly if she is okay. He notes with growing unease that her state is strange. He curses inwardly that this definitely is not an area where mosquitoes with this kind of potency should be appearing. The team leader hisses to the boss that they do not even have bug-proof suits and suggests they should just retreat. The boss agrees, quietly admitting that since Pro Lee has fainted, they probably should. Then a rustle cuts through the forest and everyone freezes. The team leader raises his weapon and orders everyone to prepare for battle. Out of the bushes hops a big fluffy white rabbit with a long twitching tail. This is the Seek rabbit, a magical beast at the very bottom of the food chain due to its high reproductive rate and frequently used in clinical trials. The boss lets out a wheezing laugh of relief. He asks aloud if it was just a Seek rabbit after all. He tells everyone to relax so they can retreat safely. But then a strangled grunt rips through the trees behind them. Someone in the party gets slammed to the ground from behind. Blood sprays across the grass. A voice cries out that it is orcs. From between the trunks, hulking green-skinned beasts stomp into view, roaring for meat. A second awakener at the front of the party grits her teeth as her fiery red hair whips around her face. She curses under her breath and shouts that she will buy them some time. She orders the group to take the wounded and fall back. Someone calls out to Taeju, urging him to run with the others. But our boy sets his backpack down and tells her calmly to go on ahead because he will stay behind. The man turns on him in shock, asking what he is talking about and saying this is no place for him to interfere. But then more orcs pour through the trees, and Taeju answers gently that there are simply too many of them, so even he needs to lend a hand. He yells at him to please take care of Pro Lee. The boss rolls his eyes and asks whether Taeju really thinks his presence is going to change anything. Our boy tells him they do not have time, so he should please hurry up and go. The young man just smiles and tells her he will provide some light support from the back. The boss sighs and finally says fine, and that he will be right back, so please do not die. Taeju answers softly, telling his not to worry about him. She spins on her heel and lunges at the orcs. A strange thought flickers behind her eyes as she moves. The orcs' movements seem somewhat organized and almost coordinated. She shakes off the doubt and unleashes her power. A spear of flame shrieks across the clearing and impales the front orc as she screams for the beast to die. But a fresh cry cuts the air. One of the porters screams that one of them is heading straight for the group. She whirls and snarls at the beast, demanding to know where it thinks it is going. A curtain of flame erupts across the forest path, cutting the incoming orc in half with a screeching death cry. Behind her, our boy quietly raises his hand and covers his mouth. His eyes narrow with focus, and something dangerous stirs behind them. He is about to act on what he sees. But then the air itself seems to shift. A voice cries out for someone to duck. A streak of something red slices through the space between them, and the fiery-haired awakener freezes in place. She stares back at him in pure confusion, and all she can murmur is a single bewildered word, asking what just happened. Far above the mortal world floats a place of dreams. Islands of jade drift among white clouds, and cherry blossom air, and pagodas ride the sky with ease. This is the celestial realm, the paradise that every cultivator on earth spent their lives trying to reach. On one of those floating islands stands a familiar white-haired old man. Tangunok, the supreme poison demon, looks out across the sea of stars with a bitter smile. He murmurs to himself that it has already been a month since he arrived here. He notes quietly that it would have been impossible had he not met Taeju. Through the new knowledge of a world called Earth that he gained through soul sharing, he achieved a fresh enlightenment. With that enlightenment, he finally reached the ascension he had so desperately wished for. But he should have known better than to celebrate. His face darkens and he grits his teeth. To think that the celestial realm is actually a prison meant to lock up scum. He spits the last word out with disgust as high above him two immortals blur across the sky, trading blows and screaming curses. One of them cackles wildly. Another howls at a fleeing rival to get back here, calling him a filthy sword immortal. Tengun-ak lifts his chin and remarks bitterly that just look at them because they are all just crazy bastards. Sect founders and legendary masters, and every last one of them turned out to be the same. Just mannerless beasts screaming for each other's blood for eternity. He closes his eyes for a long moment. To think that he wasted all those decades of cultivation just to come to a place with these kinds of people in it. Still, the connection he made back then is what led to this result. So he should try to look on the bright side of things. A soft voice calls out to him from behind. Our boy Kim Taeju stands there in the mindscape reflection. The old master's face lights up with warmth as he asks Taeju how he has been. Tengun-ak explains gently that they share the same soul, but their environments shaped them differently. He became an absolute master of the martial world while Taeju lived the life of the weakest and was rejected by everyone. He tells him that he hopes with his help our boy can finally find happiness now. To surpass the masters Tengun-ak saw in Taeju's memories, he says Taeju will need to reach the 7th star of the formless primordial poison spirit art, so he should grow quickly. He pauses, then smiles. He says that if fate allows it, they may be able to meet again. For that day, he has been searching for new things to teach him. He has been working hard even in this prison. Right on cue, a raging voice screams at him from above. Some furious sword immortal is charging in for another round. Tengun-ak turns with a smirk and taunts back, asking how the taste of true sword telekinesis feels for a so-called poison immortal. He mocks how dare a petty flying dagger art user look down on swordsmanship. Then he cackles and dares the crazy swordsman to come and kill him. Far below on the slopes of Mount Jiri, the story returns to the present. The curtain of fire still burns bright across the forest path as the fiery-haired awakener whips around and screams for Taeju to duck. A streak of gold whistles through the air just past her cheek. She catches only a blur and the sound of it. Then comes a wet green splash and a keening cry from something dying behind her. She stares in stunned silence with her breath frozen. Behind the flames, one of the orcs she never even saw slumps to the earth with a dagger buried in its throat. Taeju steps into view with his eyes calm and cold. He tells her softly that he will now show her the brand new hidden weapon skill he has just learned. Then he raises his hand and calls on the technique. Golden daggers explode outward from his palm in a shining wave. They arc through the trees, weaving between the flames and hunting every orc in the clearing. The beasts have no chance at all. Metal cuts through green flesh again, and one by one they crumple to the dirt with strangled cries. When the last dagger lands, the clearing is silent. The young man lets out a small, satisfied breath. He did not expect them all to be wiped out in one hit, and that was actually rather satisfying for him. Then his eyes fall on the fiery-haired awakener, lying limp on the ground. He winces at the sight. In his rush to save her, he ended up knocking her out along with the orcs. He looks down at the mess he has made, and his mind starts running fast. There is no benefit to having his strength discovered right now. Even if these were just orcs, a mana-compatible could handle a porter, with no facial tattoo massacring them, would definitely raise questions. Questions would spread fast. Rumors could reach his father's ears for no reason at all. He needs to get out of here before anyone else arrives. He almost laughs at himself. To think that our boy would be having worries about hiding his own strength when just a month ago he was still a mere mana reject. Meeting Tengun-ak truly changed his life. He kneels and starts gathering his scattered daggers one by one. Hidden weapon arts, he grumbles inwardly, are so inconvenient when it comes to destroying evidence because he has to pick them up one at a time. Since they get discarded after being thrown, the production cost must be sky high too. The old master had said that auto-retrieval only becomes possible from the 7th star of the poison spirit art onward. So he really has no choice but to grow stronger, and quickly at that. He pauses mid-count and frowns. He is missing one of them. Where did it go? He mutters that He is pretty sure he threw it in this direction. He searches the underbrush and then his face brightens. He found it after all. But what he finds beside the dagger stops him cold. A tiny black insect twitches on a leaf. He remembers being told this was not supposed to be an area where mutant three-striped mosquitoes appear. He picks it up carefully between two fingers and examines it closely. Our boy circulates his poison spirit art through his palm, and a soft green light examines the creature. He recognizes it now. As the mosquito's poison circulates through a body, internal energy scatters. For Awakener's mana would temporarily disappear. As expected, this poison is similar to the Muram's own energy-scattering poison. But there is a critical difference. Unlike back in the martial world here on Earth, this poison has no cure. There is no antidote, so the only real solution people have is protective gear. If our boy could just figure out its exact composition, he could use Tangunak's knowledge to create a medicine similar to the antidote for energy-scattering poison. Of course, that means finding herbs on Earth with components similar to the ones in the Muram. Taeju lets out a long sigh. He has no choice but to eat it. He pops the mosquito into his mouth and chews, wincing at the bitterness. Then his face slowly softens with relief. The composition really is similar to what he expected. If he can just find the right herbs somewhere on Mount Jiri, he can make the antidote himself. His eyes narrow with a new kind of gleam. He smells money here. This is definitely going to be profitable for him. He decides he should test it out as soon as he gets back to town. Then all at once his instincts flare up hard. Something is watching him. Taeju freezes in place. A shadow falls over him from behind the trees. Slow and heavy footsteps crunch through the leaves. When he turns, his eyes go wide. Towering above him stands a massive orc with its red eyes glowing with murder and an axe the size of a grown man clutched in its clawed fist. An elite orc appearing here is something he did not expect at all. Our boy staggers back a step. This one is abnormally huge, and it can even talk. He remembers Tangunak's memories of hearing rumors about creatures with this kind of presence. An elite is the awakened version of a magical beast, but this is not even their regular spawn area. First the mosquitoes that should not be here, then a pack of orcs, and now this. He mutters under his breath, wondering just what on earth is happening on Mount Jiri. The orc does not give him time to think. It roars again and lunges forward with its massive axe carving the air in a downward arc. Taeju throws himself to the side just as the blade splits the ground where he was standing. The impact craters the earth and spits stone shards outward. His breath catches in his throat. This is unbelievable to him. With attack power at that level, this beast must be an expert rank monster or higher. He steadies himself and studies the orc from a safe distance. It is possible that none of his attack techniques will even work on this thing, just in case he decides to start with a probing attack. He flicks his wrist and calls on the technique. A single golden dagger streaks across the clearing at blinding speed and drives toward the orc's shoulder. But the point barely bites the muscle. The dagger sparks off and clatters to the dirt with a hollow ring. Taeju grimaces at the result. Just as he expected, even Swift Strike, which is his strongest hidden weapon technique, does not work on this thing. Since Dagger Burst scatters his attacks even wider, it would be even less effective here. Would the poison from his Blood Seal Poison Palm do anything at all? The orc roars and swings its axe in a wide berserk arc. The young man dodges again with sweat rolling down his temple. He curses under his breath and asks himself what he is doing hesitating in front of an enemy this strong. To think he is second-guessing himself just because a single attack failed. Then in the corner of his mind a familiar figure surfaces, Tangunak watching him from somewhere inside. If the old man saw him right now, how pathetic would he think our boy is? He got too full of himself because he handled that pack of ordinary orcs so easily. That is not the way at all. No matter what stands in his path, he is going to keep bashing it until it falls. That is exactly the way of the supreme poison demon. Green energy erupts around him. He surges forward and his hand slams into the orc's chest with a booming impact. Poison mist explodes across the green skin. The orc bellows and staggers backward, but when the smoke clears, the beast is still standing. Taeju grits his teeth. The blow was too shallow, and it did not do any real damage to the body inside. Since it has come to this, he decides he will just have to attack it over and over again until it falls. He readies his stance for another charge. Then, without warning, the air itself splits open. Crimson lines of light streak through the trees, and they pierce the elite orc from a dozen directions at once. The beams punch straight through its torso and its arms and its neck. The beast never even makes a sound. Its body shudders once and then splits apart in a hail of red light and green blood. Taeju stares in shock and can only whisper a single word of disbelief. His eyes track the source of the killing blow to a figure walking calmly through the trees. This stranger just butchered an elite orc that easily. At that level, the man has to be at least master rank. Our boy realizes with cold dread that he should have gotten out of here quicker, but this fight with the elite dragged him past that window. Now he needs to think fast about what excuse he should give this man. A sharp voice cuts through his thoughts. Taeju turns to face the stranger. This is Lee Jung-hak, a member of the Gurya City Standing Committee and vigilante captain and guildmaster of the Mogadan Guild. His tone is cold. He asks whether Taeju is the one who did this, calling him a punk. He points out that Taeju does not have a marking on his face, so he cannot possibly be an awakener. So how exactly did a piece of trash manage to massacre a whole pack of orcs? Taeju says nothing at first. He notes silently to himself that Lee Jung-hak carries an unwavering manner and the authoritative tone of a man used to being obeyed. The crushing pressure of a master rank aura rolls off him. He is clearly not an ordinary person. Taeju has to choose his words very carefully here. He lowers his head slightly and thanks Lee Jung-hak first for saving him. Before he can say more, a familiar heavyset shape crashes through the trees. It is the porter boss, panting and waving. He calls out to Taeju and asks if he is all good. Lee Jung-hak's face darkens further. He barks at the boss that he was not asking about him and that he meant the luggage. The boss stammers back that yes, that gentleman arrived just in time, so everything is fine. Lee narrows his eyes and echoes the phrase back, asking what gentleman. The boss finally recognizes him and bows deeply, calling him Master Lee Jung-hak and apologizing for the delay. Lee waves it off and orders him to call the cleanup team and clear this mess out. The porter boss leans over to Taeju and starts explaining in a hushed, embarrassed tone. Since Gurya is a free city, he tells him it is governed by the autonomous committee, not the imperial family. Lord Lee Jung-hak is one of the 3 standing committee members who actually hold voting rights. He is the head of the Mogadan Guild in charge of the city's security and a master rank awakener on top of that. He adds that porters pay tribute to this guild for their safety. Lee snaps at him to watch his mouth. The boss sheepishly apologizes for blabbering again. Then he nudges Taeju and tells him to hurry up and give the master his thanks. Taeju obeys the boss without argument. He bows and offers his gratitude and introduces himself as Kim Taeju, a porter who arrived in Guri not too long ago. Lee raises an eyebrow at the introduction. He echoes the word porter with disbelief. He asks whether Taeju really expects him to believe that a punk managed to kill that whole pack of orcs. Taeju shakes his head with a small, helpless laugh, replying that, of course not, because how could a mere porter do such a thing? He explains that the mage in their party wiped out all the orcs single-handedly, and afterwards she passed out from mana depletion. That was when the elite orc suddenly showed up. An aide behind Lee approaches and reports that they have secured the survivors and the cleanup team is on their way back with the elite's head. Lee nods and tells everyone that all right, they should go. But before he walks off, he stops and looks back at Taeju. He calls his name and tells him that since he is just a porter who wandered into his city of Guri, he will give him a piece of advice. He warns him not to cause any trouble. Because if they ever cross paths again under bad circumstances, he will not be sending him back in one piece the way he is today. Then he is gone. The porter boss lets out a long, shaky breath of relief. He tells our boy that the man is finally gone. He warns him that if he gets on Lee's bad side, his life in Guri is over, so he really should just avoid crossing paths with him entirely. Taeju hums with curiosity. He asks whether the man was really that bad, since he only seemed a bit abusive at most. The boss shakes his head. He explains that Lee Jung-hak is only bad in name. In truth, he actually takes bribes from the criminals of the city and turns a blind eye to their business. He only puts on these upright displays for his reputation. The boss admits that he was in such a rush that he just wanted to bump into someone strong, so he brought Lee along. Otherwise, he would have called someone else entirely. The guy murmurs thoughtfully, wondering aloud if that is really so. The boss shrugs and tells him that a master is basically a walking natural disaster, and it is always best not to get tangled up with them. Then he shakes off the mood and tells everyone to pack up their precious cargo and head down before it gets any later. But inside our boy's mind is racing. Without a doubt, if that man Lee Jung-hak had not intervened, he would have been in real danger. It has been over a month since the soul sharing. So what has he been doing all this time, just because he escaped his fate as a reject with some easily obtained power? Did he get arrogant just because he outclassed a few weak awakeners? It is pathetic of him. He feels ashamed even to face Tangonak right now. His expression sharpens with new resolve. From now on, things are going to be completely different. Green energy flickers in his eyes as he swears silently to himself. He is going to become truly strong this time. The story returns to the streets of Free City Guri deep in Samhan Empire territory. The city infrastructure here is pretty well established with tall glass buildings and neon signs breaking up the skyline. But it still lacks a few things. A prime example is hospitals. There is hardly a proper one around because Guri is a dangerous city and doctors rarely come here. The few that do are runaways who cause trouble elsewhere, so the citizens quietly avoid them. As a result, what naturally multiplied were drugstores, or rather pharmacies. Due to this background, pharmacists in Guri are actually allowed to issue prescriptions on their own. They can prescribe and sell drugs approved by either the Samhan Empire's FDA or the Autonomous Committee. Business for them is unsurprisingly quite booming. For most hunters and porters, it makes far more sense to buy proven medication straight from a shelf rather than rely on some untrustworthy hospital. That is exactly why our boy came here too. Kim Tae-ju stands on a street corner in his dark hood with 3 little bottles of homemade antidote weighing down his backpack. His goal is simple: sell the antidote for the mutant 3-striped mosquito. He thinks back on how much he has suffered over the past month just to make this. Working as a porter by day to earn money, gathering ingredients on Mount Jiri in his spare time, practicing martial arts every single night. Crafting the antidote required delicate control of his internal energy, so reaching the 3rd star of the formless primordial poison spirit art was absolutely essential for him. Well, thanks to that, he actually did achieve the 3rd star. So at least he will not be going around getting beaten up by any more elite orcs from now on. If this business deal goes through, he will not have to worry about money either. That is right, and it is time to get rich. He crosses the street and pushes open the door of Bak's drugstore. A cheerful voice from inside sings out a welcome to Bak's drugstore. A young female clerk with dark hair steps up to greet him. She asks brightly what she can get for him and whether he wants an instant coagulant or a mana potion perhaps. Taeju shakes his head and tells her he is not here to buy anything because he is here to sell. He asks if the owner is around. The clerk blinks in confusion and murmurs, asking what he means. Then a warm chuckle sounds from the back, and a bearded bald man in a green apron approaches with a knowing smile. This is Bak Hong-pyo, the CEO of Bak's drugstore and director of Bak's orphanage. He tells Taeju that he is the owner here and that Taeju can speak with him directly. The young man bows his head politely and introduces himself. He says hello and that he came here because he would like to sell a medicine he made. Bak's smile turns into a heavy sigh. He complains that this is just another peddler and that it is something new every single day. He says firmly that they are not interested, so please leave. He adds that it looks to him that Taeju has not been in the city very long. If he really wants to earn money, he should go to the labor market instead. But our boy is not so easily brushed off. He calmly places one of the dark little bottles on the counter. He tells Bak that this is a mutant 3-striped mosquito antidote. Bak's mouth twists with doubt. He starts to say that he already said they are not buying, but the words stop dead in his throat. Bak stares at the bottle. He asks softly what antidote Taeju just said. Taeju repeats it flatly. A mutant 3-striped mosquito antidote. He explains that it is taken orally and can be drunk in advance as a preventive. The effect lasts for up to 10 hours. Bak's expression darkens with disbelief. He accuses Taeju of trying to pull a scam and warns that if he is going to lie, he should at least keep it believable. He calls him an ignorant little brat for trying something so obvious, but our boy does not flinch at any of that. Instead, he pulls out 2 more identical bottles and slides them onto the counter beside the first. He tells him to have 2 more. Bake should test them out and contact him if he is interested. Taeju hands over a small business card. He gives him until midnight tonight. If he does not hear back by then, he will simply take his business to another drugstore. He turns and walks out with a small polite wave. The female clerk stares after him, murmuring in bewilderment, asking what is wrong with that guy. Bake picks up one of the bottles between two fingers and holds it up to the light. He asks aloud in wonder whether this could really be a mosquito antidote. Just then, a heavy-set blonde man with a rugged face pushes into the shop. This is Park Jin-soo, a squad team leader with a solid regular rank and a heavy patron of Bake's drugstore. Bake turns to him with a wry smile. He asks whether the boss really trusts a stranger's word and whether he believes the man. Park scratches his chin and tells him honestly that it is hard to say. Bake shrugs and admits that they will find out easily enough once they test it. Bake tells his team leader friend that he does not have high hopes, since even the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the Samhan Empire have long since given up on making a mosquito antidote. But the stranger's overflowing confidence is what is really bothering him. Then the clerk gasps. She calls out to Park, telling him to please put that bottle down right now. Bake turns just in time to see Park Jin-soo tilt the bottle back and gulp it straight down. Bake nearly loses it. He shouts at his friend, calling him a crazy junkie and asking why on earth he would drink something that has not even been tested yet. Park sets the empty bottle down and licks his teeth thoughtfully. Then he shrugs it off. He tells Bake that this is just plain water. Bake's face falls at the news. He echoes the words back in disbelief, asking if it is really plain water. Park nods, explaining that, as a potion junkie who has downed his fair share of potions, he can absolutely tell. If it were a real antidote, he would feel some kind of medicinal energy inside him. But this is just plain water to him. He says to Bake that he verified it for him, so the guy is obviously a scammer. Bake should just throw the rest away. He mutters to himself, wondering whether the man really was just another one of those scammers who wander in every single day. The moment passes when another customer strides up to the counter, a burly older hunter cradling an armload of hunting supplies. He asks Bake to just ring him up. Bake asks whether he is heading out for a hunt now. The hunter grins and tells him yes, they are going out to catch frogs today. Testing that scammer's drug made him a bit late, he chuckles. Bake totals the basket and tells him that will be 3.25 million won. The hunter yelps that the price went up again and that is expensive, but he pays in full without argument. Bake wishes him a safe trip. The hunter waves and heads for the door, calling out that he is off. Bake nods and tells him to be careful on his hunt. Once alone, Bake stares down at the little bottle he has left on the counter. He mutters to himself what a pointless expectation someone actually making a mosquito antidote is. It is absolute nonsense to believe. Far away deep in the wilderness, that same hunt is going terribly wrong. Sunlight bleeds through the trees as a wolf-like beast lunges at a hunter with jaws full of jagged teeth. Someone screams the name of a defensive technique and a blue barrier flares into place just in time. A younger hunter cries out in disbelief, asking why on earth blade-tooth martens are showing up here. A dark-haired swordswoman on the team drives her blade through one of the creatures with a cry. She turns to her team leader and tells him that the rear is cleared and they should retreat now. Another wounded teammate presses a hand to his neck and warns that he has been poisoned by mosquito venom too. He thinks he will be paralyzed very soon. The team leader, who is Park Jin-soo himself, grits his teeth and shouts back that he has got it. They should just hold on a second. It is over once he takes this one down. Then his eyes catch something small and black hovering in the air near his cheek. A mutant mosquito is right there buzzing beside him. His heart drops into his stomach. He curses under his breath and tells himself no. If he gets bitten anywhere here, the mosquito venom will scatter. His mana will scatter with it, and paralysis will set in. If he collapses in this situation, the whole team will be wiped out. Above him, his shield flickers. His voice cracks with dread. He asks whether the shield is weakening and whether he has already been poisoned. His mind races back over the day. Where exactly did this all go wrong? This is a mosquito-infested area, and they even prepared bug-repellent suits for it. But then he remembers. Blade-tooth martens suddenly appeared out of nowhere in what was supposed to be a mutant frog hunting ground. Their bug suits were instantly destroyed in the ambush. He, as the team leader, should have stayed more focused. He panicked and he got hit. After getting bitten by the mosquitoes, they tried to retreat, but the martens blocked their escape route, leaving them no choice but to risk their lives and fight. His breath comes in shallow gasps. If he could just kill this one marten, everyone could survive. But it is going to end right here instead. Then his dark-haired teammate screams from behind him, She warns the team leader to look out. Park slowly turns to face it. Cold sweat runs down his temple. His pupils shrink to pinpricks. Instead of the paralysis he expected, his shield flickers with a sharp crackle and shatters. His eyes go wide. This is strange because only the shield reinforcement broke. He did not lose any strength. His mana is intact too. His breath catches as a wild suspicion takes over. Do not tell him that the antidote was actually real. If the antidote is real, then he still has a fighting chance. He charges back into the fray with new fire in his eyes. Later, back on the streets of Free City Guri, the door of Baek's drugstore slams open with a wild bang. Park Jin-soo bursts inside, soaked in sweat and blood. He shouts Baek's name at the top of his lungs. Baek nearly drops the ledger he was closing up, stammering that they are closed. Park does not care about the hours. He says the antidote from this morning is what he came for. He shouts that he will buy every last bottle they have. Baek stammers back, asking how much of it. Park hollers that he will take all of it. Somewhere else in Guri, that same day, our boy is having a much better afternoon. Kim Tae-ju strolls through the huge open-air Guri market with his hood down and a small smile on his face. Vendors are hollering on every side. One shouts about cheap blade-tooth marten meat, promising it is great for stamina at only 5 million won. Another crows about custom-made crustacean magical beast armor starting at just 50 million won. Taeju's eyes go wide as he takes it all in. He murmurs to himself in awe that, having only ever lived in Paju and up on Mount Sirak, this is his very first time seeing such a huge market. It is so dazzling to him. Taking a day off today was a great idea. His mind drifts back to how he even got here. Creating the mosquito antidote required reaching the 3rd star of the poison spirit art. It needed precise control over his internal energy in order to extract the antidote's ingredients from medicinal and poisonous herbs. Because he overexerted himself, his poison essence overloaded after finally reaching the 3rd star. So for now he needs to rest and digest the poison for a while. Besides that, there is another reason our boy is out shopping today. Yesterday, sitting across from Baek Hong-pyo in the drugstore's back office, everything changed. Baek slapped a contract on the table with a wide grin. He told Taeju to sign a contract with him because he would buy every last drop that Taeju has. Taeju could only chuckle in disbelief, murmuring to himself that it actually worked. Baek beamed and told him of course, because this medicine will revolutionize magical beast hunting on Mount Jiri. He apologized shamefacedly, admitting that to think he had failed to recognize a benefactor and had called him crazy. Taeju waved it off and asked what he meant. Baek shook his head and told him it was nothing. He asked how much stock Taeju has and whether there is enough. Taeju told him he has roughly 60,000 bottles. Baek's eyes lit up. He asked what happens if they all sell out. Taeju assured him naturally he can immediately produce more. Baek said that was excellent and slid the paperwork across the desk. He explained the terms. He would set the official production cost at 10,000 won per bottle, so they could be sold for 50,000 won each. That price included the condition that Baek would handle all drug approvals and patent procedures on Taeju's behalf. Taeju kept his face carefully neutral. There really is no need to mention that his actual production cost is less than 100 won per bottle. Baek did the math out loud. Those are good terms. With an initial stock of 60,000 bottles, that comes out to 3 billion won. Minus a 10% tax, that leaves 2 7/10 billion. Taeju raised an eyebrow, remarking that the tax is only 10% and the free city really is different. But then unexpectedly Baek leaned forward. He offered a new deal. He would grant Taeju an exclusive 1-year contract and supply the antidote at just 35,000 won a bottle. The young man tilted his head in confusion and told him he really does not have to give it to him that cheap. Then he smiled softly. He asked Baek whether he runs an orphanage. He told him the rumors are everywhere, and everyone in Guri knows Baek Hong-pyo as the father of all orphans in the city. He heard that Baek funds Baek's orphanage entirely from his drugstore's profits. Our boy says plainly that he just wants to help out. Taeju continues gently with another question. In exchange, could he ask Baek to provide a place where he can manufacture the antidote in bulk? Baek nods without hesitation and says, of course, because he actually has the perfect place in mind. They shake hands across the desk. Baek says it is all done, and he looks forward to working with him. Taeju bows and replies that the pleasure is his. Having successfully signed the antidote contract and received a hefty advance, Taeju decided to take the day off and visit the famous Guri market to buy some gear. Back in the present, Taeju is strolling past a stall when a huge shadow falls over him. A bald, muscle-bound blacksmith calls out asking, "Hey there, young man, does he need a weapon?" Taeju blinks and points at himself, asking if he is talking to him. The blacksmith puffs out his chest and says, "Yeah, his shop is the best around here. He should not bother looking elsewhere and just get it here. Since Taeju is so handsome, he will even throw in a special discount." Taeju backs up, waving his hands politely and saying no thanks because he really does not need anything. But the blacksmith is not taking no for an answer. He grabs Taeju by the arm and says he is being way too mean and should just take a look around because it will not cost him a single thing. Taeju yelps as he gets dragged forward. The blacksmith cheerfully hollers for them to go to his sweet home filled with dreams and romance. The guy stumbles along in shock. Judging by the man's rank markings, this is a mana-compatible tier blacksmith at most, so where on earth does this monstrous strength come from? He can barely believe that his own body, currently strengthened by a third-star awakening of a poison master's art, is being pushed around this easily. Inside the shop, the walls are hung with beautifully crafted swords and shields and hammers. The blacksmith proudly asks, "So what does he think? Because it is pretty good, right?" Taeju's eyes go wide with genuine impression. He asks in awe if the blacksmith made all of this himself. The man beams and says, "Of course, because he is the best in Giria City." Taeju notes internally that the fellow was not bluffing at all. The quality is superb. One really cannot judge a book by its cover. Then he pulls a small sketch from his pocket and slides it across the counter. "All right, in that case, can the blacksmith make 100 of these?" The blacksmith squints at the drawing and reads the name. Willow leaf flying daggers. He asks what these things even are calling them, way too small to be proper throwing knives. He asks if Taeju is planning to use them himself. Taeju nods, telling him yes he is. The blacksmith hums and says that if he wants them to actually deal damage when thrown, then the material has to be mana steel. Taeju asks if he can make them. The blacksmith puffs up proudly and says, "Of course, but it will take some time due to a lack of materials," and asks if that is okay. The blacksmith counts on his fingers. Adding materials and labor plus a handsome guy discount, it comes to 250 million won. He only needs to pay a 10% deposit today. Taeju grimaces internally at the figure. 250 million won for 100 single-use hidden weapons. He expected as much, but this martial art really does burn through cash. Out loud, he says he will pay for it in full right now. The blacksmith laughs delightedly and says once the first sample is ready, he will send it straight to his address. Taeju bows and says he is counting on him. Outside on the street again, Taeju hums thoughtfully. He managed to order the willow leaf flying daggers with more ease than he expected. But now he needs to find some armor as well. He needs to sew pockets into his clothes and carry around countless poisons and hidden weapons the way Tang Gunok used to. Should he get a long martial robe custom-made too? For a heartbeat, he imagines himself standing in the middle of Guri Market wearing a full traditional Chinese cultivator robe, complete with billowing sleeves. Bystanders point and murmur about what that dude is wearing. Taeju's face flushes red as he shakes the image out of his head. He should stick to a modern style because that would definitely be a bit too embarrassing. He needs modern armor he can wear instead of a long robe. What are his options here? Then a soft voice calls to him from behind, politely asking to excuse him. Taeju turns with a curious hum. A young saleswoman in a fox-eared outfit stands there with a bright, polite smile, holding a promotional brochure. She says that Flame Boutique has just released a new line of magical beast leather armor. They also have coats on display today, and please come inside and take a look. Our boy accepts the brochure and looks it over. A coat made of magical beast leather. He hums thoughtfully at the prospect. Yeah, this could actually work in place of a long robe for him. Deep inside Samhan Empire territory, high above the streets of Free City Guri, a double-decker tram glides through the morning air. From its upper deck, two women take in the view of the distant walled castle looming over the skyline. One of them is a stunning young lady with long silver hair who watches the towers with cool disdain. She murmurs that, "So that is the castle." Her orange-haired secretary tips her glasses and hums that a walled city in the year 2325 reeks of vanity. The silver-haired lady adds bitterly that the truth is one can only get there by boat these days. The bridges have all been locked down for so-called safety reasons. Even then, one can only live inside if one is a rich resident of Guri, or a high-ranking awakener, or an administrator, or a big shot on the council. She calls it disgusting how those with power hoard themselves away and dress it up as safety. This is Jung Yun-hee, the sole heir to the Baekdu group, and currently a military academy cadet with an aptitude user rank. The secretary raises a hand with a nervous laugh. She tells her to relax because she is scary when she talks that way. Then she leans forward with genuine curiosity, asking whether Yun-hee really came all the way here today, just for a fox leather coat. She says that it is not just any fox leather, it is Siberian illusion fox leather. Those foxes have a small population, and hunting them is extremely difficult, so their leather is genuinely rare. Armor made from that material has excellent defense, but it is also cool in the summer and warm in the winter. The secretary lets out an impressed gasp and agrees that it definitely sounds worth using her vacation time on. Then she remembers something and mentions that the chairman himself sent a black card and told her to use it freely. Yun-hee shakes her head at once. Her grandfather did send it, but no thank you. Her own money is more than enough. The tram intercom chimes and announces the stop for Guria Market. The two women step off and start walking through the crowd. Yun-hee says to head straight to the boutique because she wants to see the real thing quickly. The secretary bows and answers, "Yes, my lady." Meanwhile, somewhere farther down the same street, our boy pushes open the same door. Kim Tae-ju steps into Flame Boutique looking around with cautious curiosity. He was drawn in from the outside by that friendly saleswoman in the fox-ear outfit. A coat made from magical beast leather could really work in place of the long martial robe he was considering. He is trying to imagine himself styling something in a modern cut. A polite voice from behind the counter starts to greet him with a welcome to the Flame Boutique and then trails off dead. A polite voice from behind the counter starts to greet him with a welcome to the Flame Boutique and then trails off dead. Her face lights up with startled recognition. She asks whether he is really Kim Tae-ju and the porter from back then. The guy forces a nervous laugh and stammers that he is not sure who she means. She waves her hand and reminds him that it was only about a month ago. She was the mage who was in the same party when the orcs attacked. Tae-ju lets out a sound of recognition he cannot hide. The mage smiles softly. She says he remembers her after all, and asks with warm curiosity what he is doing here. She adds gently that this is her main job. She only participates in monster subjugation as a side gig when she has the time. Then her voice drops with something more serious. She says she is so glad to have finally met him here because she has been looking for him. Our boy's stomach drops. He waves both hands and asks why she would be looking for him of all people. She went through so much back then, he says, so she should just stay healthy. He will be going now. Silently his mind races. He remembers exactly why he gave her all the credit for wiping out that pack of orcs. It was so he could live quietly in Guri without drawing attention to himself. Of course there was always a chance the truth would come out once she woke up, but he had already prepared to move if that ever happened. He turns for the door, but her voice cuts him off sharply, telling him to wait. She takes a breath and then asks him directly, by any chance was he the one who saved her back then? She explains that the Nogadan Guild told her she passed out from mana depletion after killing all those orcs herself. She had figured it must have been because of some special circumstances, so she just went along with the story. But now, seeing him again, the doubt has returned. Tae-ju tries once more to deflect. He hums awkwardly and says he thinks she has him confused because how could a porter possibly kill orcs? He passed out that day too, but she does not let it go. She looks him in the eye and says honestly that she does not know why he decided to help her, but she is so grateful. Thanks to him, she was able to recover the bodies of her team leader and her lover. Her voice cracks softly on the last word. She thanks him again with everything she has. The young man cannot answer at first. His silence stretches long. Inside, he asks himself how on earth he is supposed to handle this. Finally, he speaks up about it. It is true that he fought to save a person's life that day. But he confesses that he also had a selfish desire to test his own techniques. He says softly that someone in his position does not even deserve her gratitude. He has put his savior in an awkward position, and for that he is sorry. Before the mage can reply, a sharp voice cuts across the shop from the counter. Yun-hee's orange-haired secretary steps forward with a thundercloud of a face and cuts in sharply. She demands to know how long the mage is going to make her lady wait. The mage flinches and stammers a quick apology. Then she does something no one expects. She turns to Yun-hee and bows deeply. She calls her lady Jung Yun-hee and says she is very sorry, but she can no longer sell the coat that her lady just picked out. Our boy's eyes widen in disbelief as she echoes the words back, asking about the coat. The secretary explodes, demanding to know whether the mage is kidding because they already took all the measurements and only had to pay for it. She snaps that her lady traveled a long way just to make time to come here. The mage lowers her head, but her voice stays steady. She says she knows, but the most precious thing she has to give is that coat. She could have sold it just a moment ago, but now there is something else she has to use it for. Yun-hee stares at her for a long moment. Then she simply murmurs that so the mage really will not sell it. She turns on her heel and says they should just go. The secretary blinks in disbelief and asks her lady if she is really doing this. The two of them walk out with quiet grace. Then she calls after her, asking how she can just leave when she said she really wanted it. Yun-hee's voice remains calm and generous. It is fine, she says, because the woman said she has another use for it now. Taeju watches them go and turns back to the mage with an uneasy hum. He says that woman was clearly an important customer. He feels bad for causing her so much trouble. The mage smiles softly and says it is fine. She should be the one apologizing for surprising him. Taeju asks, still confused, why she suddenly decided not to sell the coat. Her smile widens with a hint of teasing. She asks him whether he must hear he is dense quite often. Taeju blinks and answers honestly that no, this is actually the first time he has heard such a thing. She says that cannot possibly be true and asks if he still has not figured it out even in this situation. She turns and lifts the beautiful coat down from its stand. Then she says plainly that this coat she is giving to him. Taeju's eyes go wide with confusion. He asks her what she means by that. She says she wants to repay him for saving her life with this silver fox leather coat. Our boy shakes his head fast. He says no because he cannot accept this. He confesses honestly that he did not save her with any real good intentions, it just happened in the moment. But the mage steadies him with a firm gaze. She asks him what relevance intentions really have. What matters is that she survived and received his grace as the result. Her voice softens with a shadow of grief. She says that if it truly bothers him, then he should just save even more people the next time. That way they will not lose their lives in vain the way her lover did. Something in Taeju's chest tightens. This is the first time in his life he has ever received gratitude from anyone. He was always met with criticism and disdain, and he had grown used to it. To be honest, it would be a lie to say the situation is not overwhelming because he really did not help her with good intentions. But a small smirk touches his mouth. It is not a bad feeling at all. He nods and says he understands. If she insists, he will gratefully accept it. Far above the mortal world in the drifting clouds of the celestial realm, another old man is sighing with boredom. He lets out a long groan and complains that he is so bored. There is nothing to do in this damn realm of immortals. This is the sword immortal Dongbun Xianin. He grumbles that everyone up here wears the same clothes and sports the same white hair and grows the same white beards. Old geezers, the lot of them. Then his eye catches a familiar figure across the drifting islands. He murmurs that the Tang guy over there is a bit different. He notes that the Tang fellow must have come from Miram too, since he is the only one who really stands out. Recently the Tang fellow suddenly got a weird haircut, claiming it was a style from another world. He trimmed his beard and even made clothes no one up here had ever seen before. The sword immortal wonders aloud whether the Tang guy failed to adapt at first and finally went crazy. Or maybe he was actually just a mad demon all along. Even though people called him the poison demon down in Miram, maybe he is just a poison immortal now. The sword immortal falls quiet for a long moment. Then he brightens up. He decides he is bored enough that maybe he should ask the Tang guy how to make clothes. If he just changes his own outfit, it might be a little less boring up here. Two crazy guys sounds more fun than just one crazy Tang guy anyway. He nods to himself and decides to go right now. He kicks off the cloud with his sword under his feet and takes off. If he gives the old poisoner this precious thing, the man will gladly teach him. From his robes, he pulls out a small glowing pink fruit that hums with sacred light. It is the heavenly peach of the celestial realm. Down in the underground shelter beneath Baek's orphanage, our boy Kim Taeju hunches over rows of tiny glass bottles and smiles at his own handiwork. The mutant three-striped mosquito antidote has come out beautifully. His phone lights up before he can even stretch, and Baek Hongpyo is on the other end, sounding panicked. Baek says this is a relief, then adds that they are almost out of stock, and asks when Taeju can send more. Taeju blurts out in surprise that he sent a fresh batch just yesterday, and asks if Baek really needs more already. Baek laughs bitterly and explains that word about the antidote has spread across the whole city. Customers are fighting each other over bottles, and the hoarding has been especially severe. Taeju demands to know why they are cutting in line. Baek sighs that this is exactly the problem, then asks him to please announce that the supply will be consistent and to set a purchase limit of 2 bottles per person. Taeju agrees that yes, he will do that, but warns that even with such explosive popularity, copycat drugs might appear sooner than expected. Baek asks if that will really be alright. Taeju assures him yes, it is fine. Copycats might be possible someday, but not right now. Even if copycats appear, they can just make and sell a different kind of medicine. He explains that unless the antidote is manufactured with the poison spirit art, copying it is impossible. Then he asks the more important question. He says he will try to hold on by controlling the sales volume, but asks Baek to please continue to supply him. Baek promises to try, and Taeju cuts in with a shy request. By any chance could he get a packaging machine? Because packaging is now taking longer than the actual manufacturing, and he packaged 20,000 bottles today by hand alone. He mentions dryly that Baek knows he has not been able to go back to his place for a week and has been stuck in this basement the whole time. The door above creaks open the moment the call ends. 2 little kids from the orphanage tiptoe down the stairs, whispering to each other that they should not come here because a ghost lives inside. Our boy perks up with a mischievous grin and waits for them to inch closer, then pops out from behind a stack of boxes and greets them with a cheerful hi. The kids scream their lungs out and bolt for the exit, shrieking that it is a smelly ghost. Taeju touches his own collar, faintly offended. He admits he has not been able to wash for a week, but asks himself if he really smells that bad. A fresh voice cuts in from the doorway. This is Baek Seyeon, and she is Baek Hongpyo's daughter. She has heard from her father that they are working on the antidote business together. She apologizes politely for the kids being loud, then explains that they were talking about a ghost in the basement, so she came down to check. She hands Taeju a long package and says this is a prototype she was asked to deliver. His eyes light up at the sight. The willow leaf flying daggers he ordered. She also passes him a small note, then bows gracefully and asks him to please continue to have a good relationship with her father. Before leaving, she reminds him to please wash up in the shower room on the 1st floor before he goes. The young man mumbles a yes and a goodbye, quietly embarrassed. The note is from the blacksmith. It reads that the item is only a prototype, so please try using it and let him know if it lacks anything. Taeju tears the paper open and gives one dagger a testing flick. The weight is perfect, and the grip is perfect too. He spins another between his fingers and thinks that these look sharp and solid. He is definitely looking forward to the finished coat too. The red-haired mage told him she would give the coat to him for free once it was ready. He shakes his head at that. No, he cannot do that. Since he has earned money by now, he should pay for it properly and receive it the right way. He glances at the time and mutters that he is cutting it close. He should hurry up now, but he should shower first. Sometime later, high in the magical beast border zone of Mount Jiri, Bosso's porter team is waiting at the meeting point. Bosso spots him from a distance and waves enthusiastically, welcoming him. Taeju apologizes for being the last one there and asks if they have been waiting long. Bosso brushes it off cheerfully, saying they just arrived themselves, and thanks him for coming on such short notice. Taeju laughs softly and says not to mention it because Boss O has helped him a lot, so a favor is nothing. Then a rude voice cuts in from the side. A young man with a katana slung across his shoulder is glaring at them. This is Jang Won-jun, a beginner-rank awakener of the Kwangdong-suk raid team. He sneers that if a lowly porter is the last one here, he should come over and apologize first. Taeju replies flatly that he was not late for the meeting time, so he sees no reason to apologize. Won-jun's face darkens with fury. He glares and asks if this bastard is really talking back to him. If a porter without ranking is making someone who should conform wait, does he really need to act with this kind of attitude? He grips his sword and asks if he needs to slice Taeju up before he says sorry. That is when it happens. Green light kindles behind Taeju's eyes, and something dark and heavy uncoils in his chest. There was a reason he ended up as a substitute here. No wonder everyone else ran away from this job. The killing pressure flares out of him in silent waves. Wonjun feels it, and stiffens, then insists nervously that even if Taeju picks a fight on purpose, he should just hold it in, please. He accuses him of getting scared now that he sees the sword, and of talking back the way he just did. The guy lets out a slow breath and says, yeah, he is used to this kind of thing, so he will just hold it in this time. Kwon Dong-suk, the raid team leader himself, snaps at his junior to stop it and let it go. He says it is a waste of time. Wonjun spits back that Taeju should consider himself lucky, since he was about to cut him cleanly off. Boss O scrambles between them and asks if Taeju is okay. Taeju says yes, he really is sorry too. Boss O nods and announces that, since everyone is here, they should head out. But someone in Boss O's team frowns and asks if they are really going on a raid with just 7 people. With the scale of the mosquito boss on Jiri, they would need at least 10. Boss O admits the trend lately has been to reduce raid members because of the mosquito antidote, but this really is too few. Then Kwon Dong-suk himself pipes up, telling his men to hold on. He warns Wonjun that if he mumbles one more time, he will cut off his limbs and throw him to the magical beasts as food. Wonjun whines that the porter bastards in Guri must be living too well. Kwon Dong-suk mutters that never in his life has he heard a porter talk back in that manner. Someone else says to stop it, because the porter might really run away, and if he runs, he dies by their hands anyway. Inside Taeju, the killing pressure climbs again. Green chains of poison energy coil at the edges of his silhouette. These guys have crossed the line. He has power now. Does he really have to keep holding back in front of scum with this kind of attitude? Should he just kill them right here? He stops himself just in time and calls out to the team instead, telling everyone to take the antidote and move out immediately. Boss O sighs and murmurs that he really did ask a useless favor this time. He apologizes softly for the hassle. Then he wonders aloud whether they should truly proceed with only this number of people, given that today's hunting ground is the Blade-Tooth Marten area. A silver-coated familiar with soft blue markings peeks out from behind one of the raiders. Its owner explains that until now they needed a lot of people because of the mosquitoes, but now that the antidote exists, they can take off the bug-proof suits, so the required number of personnel has decreased. He admits it makes him a little anxious that there are 2 beginners, but it should not be a big problem. He tells Taeju not to worry and to drink his own portion separately. Taeju thanks her softly and lifts the bottle to his lips. Deep in his own head, he watches his own reflection ripple. The power he possesses has brought about a new change. If it really bothers him, he should save more people next time, so that they do not lose their lives in vain. As the ones dying uselessly from mosquito venom during raids drop away, he is able to save many people with his power, just as she wished. This power has changed him as well. The reason for that is probably because of Tang Gun Ak, the supreme poison demon. His tendency was to prioritize killing those he disliked instead of just letting them go. This is what Tang Gun Ak called venomous heart. After the soul sharing the venomous heart of the demon is slowly assimilating with his own. It is not a bad change, he thinks, considering that he was too weak to survive in the current world. Still, after meeting these guys, he has already lost control of his murderous intent twice. Should he just kill them? Boss O trots up beside him and pleads with him to please stick close during this raid. Taeju blinks and asks with a soft smirk whether O is joking. Even if that team has bad rumors, would it not be safer to stay next to an awakened rather than a powerless porter? Boss O's face turns serious and says he is not joking. He has been feeling something from deep inside the forest for a while now. Our boy follows his gaze into the tree line. A pair of red eyes ignites inside the shadow, and a low guttural rumble rolls out through the leaves. This is a ferocious killing intent directed at them. The black and crimson beast that steps out of the dark is anything but ordinary. Long ago in the Miram world, at the great burning halls of the Zhu clan, an old man in flowing white knelt in the ash while a taller silver-haired figure loomed over him. This was Zhu Qian, patriarch of the Zhu clan, and this was the night Tang Gun Ak came for his life. Zhu Qian spat that Tang Gun Ak had lost his mind, daring to mess with them. Tang Gun Ak only smiled that terrible smile of his and asked how shameless a man had to be. Should he call him Zhu Qian still, or should he call him Lightning Demon? It had all been revealed. The Zhu clan had been conspiring with the demonic cult the whole time. Zhu Qian cried out that they had been set up and that they were one of the 5 great clans, so how could they possibly be involved? Tangunok's face darkened. He said that demonic cult bastards always insisted it was not true. Then he tossed something at Zhu Qian's feet and told the old patriarch he should say hello to his son. The body of the young man rolled to a stop in the ash. Tangunok explained calmly that they had massacred civilians and gathered life essence to make the demonic blood pill, so he had politely brought the boy along. Well, then he asked, "Is it still a setup, Lightning Demon Zhu Qian?" Then he said the words that would echo through the rest of his life. He hates people with this kind of cowardice the most, those who use the weak as a shield just to save their own lives. Zhu Qian collapsed to his knees and begged. He pleaded for his life, saying he would tell everything about the heavenly demon. Tangunok told him enough. Countless Orthodox faction members had died meaningless deaths because of him. He should be gone now. He would send the heavenly demon soon as well. To hell with all of them. Back in the present, high on Mount Jiri, our boy Kim Taeju stands in a small clearing, while a raider holds up a glittering energy crystal with delight. The pack of blade-tooth martens has been cleared. Kwon Dong-suk's men swagger over and sneer that, hey, the porter had asked earlier if they were really going with this small a team. Is this enough of an answer for him? A lowly bastard with his kind of attitude is just full of fear, and that is why he is stuck being a porter. Boss O scrambles between them, agreeing hastily that they were absolutely out of line, and asks Taeju to agree. Inside his own head, Taeju watches his fingers tighten. These guys managed to hunt those martens only thanks to his antidote. Should he just kill them right here? They are dead men walking anyway. Then he catches himself and pulls the killing intent back down. No, he should endure it. Using guys with this kind of attitude as the first targets for his willow leaf flying daggers would be a waste. He drops his eyes and murmurs that, all things considered, it is thanks to the antidote that a mere 2 beginners and 3 aptitude users managed to clear a pack of martens at all. But that is when Boss O's face shifts. However, he says softly, will they be able to handle what comes next as well? He murmurs to Taeju that it is going to start soon. Just as he said when they departed, Taeju should please stick close to him. Taeju blinks half amused and asks again, what exactly is starting? Boss O keeps his voice low. It is nothing much, he says. Just something that is known for being very difficult to deal with on Mount Jiri. A magical beast attack is incoming. Then the trees behind them shudder. A pair of red eyes ignites in the shadow, and a heavy guttural growl rolls out. One of Kwon's men stammers that it is a red-furred wolf. Kwon Dong-suk snaps to attention and confirms it, snarling the name. A magical beast that requires at least regular rank awakener to face. Its strength is one problem, but the bigger problem is something else entirely. Taeju whispers to Bosso not to worry and that nothing will happen to them. He asks him to hold something for a second. Then Bosso thinks better of it and cries out that Mr. Kim, they actually need to run away right now. Then the second howl comes from behind them. Everyone freezes in their tracks. Red-furred wolves always move as a pair, male and female. 2 of the beasts have appeared at the front and the rear at the same time. Kwon Dong-suk stares at the second wolf and hisses through his teeth. To think there was one more hiding back there. He breaks first and charges the front wolf with his katana raised, shouting for it to die. The wolf sidesteps him without effort. Kwon Dong-suk skids in the dirt and swears, asking if it just dodged him. He shouts for Dong-suk to give him orders. Kwon shouts at another of his men not to run and not to leave him behind, but the crew is already scattering. Then Kwon Dong-suk collects himself with an ugly grin. He tells his white-haired woman to shut up because they are just going to do it the usual way. Just the same as last time, they will throw those porter bastards as bait and make a run for it. His men exchange the same look they must have exchanged 100 times before and slowly start to close in on Taeju and the other porter. Bosso's face goes pale as he realizes what is happening. He turns to Taeju and asks in a shaking voice whether Mr. Kim can show them something. The situation is too bad for him to just trust blindly. Taeju lifts his head. His eyes are already glowing green. He tells Bosso that he will show him right now. Green fire uncoils from his hand as he draws the willow leaf flying daggers. He whispers the technique name under his breath. A single streak of green cuts the air and buries itself in the crown of the front wolf's skull. The beast's roar cracks off mid-breath and it topples to the ground. The green light lingers where the dagger passed. Everyone in the clearing forgets to breathe. Kwon Dong-suk's mouth hangs open. His crewmate stares and stammers, asking what this is. Taeju does not answer them at all. He speaks over their heads at no one in particular. One guy abandons the team he is supposed to protect. The other offers the weakest among them, the porters, as bait. Then the words come out of him in a voice that sounds older than his own. He says he hates guys with this kind of cowardice the most. The ones who trample on the weak and use them as shields just to survive. Jang Wonjun clutches his ear and screams. A thin ring of blood runs down the side of his face. He stares blankly, then flinches back and stammers, asking if the wolf is dead and since when. Boss O drops to one knee and gasps out, asking how Taeju defeated the wolf in one blow. Taeju tells him to shut up. He tells the whole clearing that he is in a really bad mood right now. If any of them take even one step, they are dead. Then he turns his attention to Kwon and Wonjun. He asks them almost politely if he can ask them something. Did they do this every time? Whenever it got dangerous and disadvantageous, did they just throw the weak to the wolves and run? Jang Wonjun's fear cracks, and out comes his real self. So what if they did, he snarls. It is only natural for those weak bastards to die for the sake of Awakened. Taeju hums softly and says he figured as much. Then they should experience the exact same thing for themselves. He gestures at the second red-furred wolf still crouching low and ready to spring. Its mate is dead, and it has nothing left to lose. Taeju tells them plainly to fight the wolf themselves. Kwon and Wonjun both gape at him. He took care of one for them. Now they can deal with the remaining one on their own. Kwon Dong-suk explodes with rage. He screams, asking what kind of bullshit that is. Does the porter think he can get away with messing with Awakeners? The white-haired woman drops all pride and pleads with Taeju instead. She begs him to please kill it for them, saying they will pay him handsomely because he is strong enough. Kwon whirls on her and shouts at her to shut up. He raises his hand to strike her. Our boy's coin is already in the air. It grazes Kwon's remaining ear and takes it clean off. Kwon crumples with a howl. Taeju says that since he cannot understand human speech, he must not need his ears. Taeju will say it again. He is the porter, they are the combatants. He asks softly where that confidence they had when fighting the Martins went. So they should go fight now. The red-furred wolf lowers its head. Its mate's blood is on its muzzle. Its eyes lock on Kwon Dong-suk, the man who just lost his ear. Our boy Kim Taeju stands on the rocks with the wolf's blood still fresh in the air and the green glow behind his eyes cool and unhurried. He tells Kwon Dong-suk and Chung Wonjun plainly to go fight. Wonjun and Kwon glance at each other in disbelief and stammer, asking what he just said. Chung Wonjun, with his ear still weeping blood from the coin that took it off, glares up at him with all the venom of a wounded animal and snaps that Taeju really thinks they will do as he says. Taeju shrugs and says softly that, well, it seems this guy has other ideas. The remaining red-furred wolf has just decided to answer for him. The mate of the beast Taeju killed lunges forward. Kwon Dong-suk twists to run and the wolf's jaws close in the space where his shoulder was. He rolls in the dirt, clutching his ruined ear, and howls about his ear and curses the porter, saying he will kill him. Then the beast is on him for real. The white-haired woman screams. One of the mana-compatible men shouts for someone to run. The wolf takes the woman by the arm and Wonjun takes off in the opposite direction without looking back. The red-furred wolf licks the blood from its muzzle and turns its head to fresh prey. Boss O freezes in place with his backpack still on and gasps up to the ridge that the magical beast is coming toward him. Taeju watches from his perch on the boulder with his chin resting in his hand. He clicks his tongue and murmurs that if it had just left, he would have spared it. Even though he clearly showed it the difference between their levels earlier, the wolf seems to have gained confidence from easily killing some trash. Green light kindles brighter behind his eyes as he stands up. It has to die now. He drops from the ridge in a single soundless step. The wolf whips its head around just in time to see him. Then the words come out under his breath, low and old. A swirling green sigil unfolds in the air between his palm and the wolf's chest. There is one bright green flare, and the beast's body seizes. It tumbles sideways and collapses into the dirt. Green mist coils off the wound and vanishes into the wind. Boss O stares at his own porter with his mouth hanging open. He mutters shakily that Mr. Kim did not even have a marking, so he thought he was mana compatible at best. But this is something else entirely. Is he really working as a porter? Could it be that the elite orc from last time was actually defeated by Mr. Kim Taiju, and not by the vigilante captain at all? He clearly said the mage did it. Did he lie to hide his powers? Taiju lets out a slow breath and stretches his shoulders as the green energy settles back into his bones. After only making antidotes for so long, using his powers for the first time in a while feels refreshing. Boss O looks up and freezes. He whispers with terror in his voice, asking what is going to happen to him since he just saw all this. Boss O flinches so hard he almost falls over. He drops to his knees and clasps his hands together and cries out for Taiju to please spare him. The young man blinks, then he laughs a short, surprised laugh and asks goodness, why on earth would he kill Boss O of all people? Boss O peeks up cautiously between his fingers. Taiju helps him back onto his feet and asks whether he is hurt anywhere. Boss O insists loudly that no, not at all, and even if he is not hurt. Taiju says that is a relief then, and asks if he could ask him a small favor. Boss O nods so fast his hat almost slides off and tells him to just say the word. Taiju's face darkens for a single instant. What Boss saw today, he says. Boss O throws his hands up over his eyes and stammers that did something happen up here because he did not see anything at all. Taiju smiles quietly and thanks him. Then he asks softly whether they should head down now. Boss O gives a shaky yes and says they should hurry. As they leave the ridge, Taiju looks back once at the wolf carcasses and the broken bodies of the Kwangdongsuk raid team scattered in the pine needles. If he leaves the bodies, the magical beasts will take care of them just the same way they did at Mount Sorak. He did not kill them directly, but he led them to their deaths, and he does not feel a shred of guilt about it. Whether as the supreme poison demon Tanggunak, or as the supreme poison demon Kim Taiju, he swears to himself that he will definitely kill scumbags who use the weak as shields to survive, because they are scumbags just the same as those of the Zhu clan. Down in Free City Guria, in the tall walled district that only ships can reach, YJ Pharmacy headquarters is in full crisis mode. Inside the meeting room, a hand slams the long conference table so hard the porcelain cups jump. One of the executives is holding up the front page of the Guria Free Daily and shouting that does this make any sense because their sales are cut in half. That damn Kim Taiju and Beck's drugstore. Since they started selling that antidote, people only go to Beck's for everything and buy every other medicine while they are already there. Another executive slams a hand down beside him and spits that they are just catching flies over here. They should have crushed that small store a long time ago. The bearded man at the head of the table sips his coffee calmly and asks whether they think he does not know that. This is Oh Nambuk, president of Sejipyeong drugstore. He explains that out of the 200 or so pharmacies in Guria, Sejipyeong owns 70 and Chunwang-ro owns most of the rest. Beck's is the only one nobody has ever been able to touch. The furious blonde executive slams his own fist down. He spits that the damn autonomy committee blocked all of them from touching Baek Hongpyo because Baek feeds those orphan brats. This is Lee Gil-ho, president of Guria Nuri drugstore. Oh Nambok tilts his head and mocks him gently, asking if he knows all that, then why is he just throwing a tantrum instead of offering a solution? Lee Gil-ho jumps out of his chair snarling, and it takes another executive between them to hold them apart. Now please calm down, the peacemaker asks with a tired smile. He wants to know why the two of them argue every time they meet. This is Jo Hoon-suk, representative of YJ Pharmacy. He suggests they stop beating around the bush and share their progress. In a way, they are all in the same boat. YJ have failed, he admits first. Guria Nuri also failed to manufacture a generic version, another mutters. Same for Sejipyeong, Onambuk adds calmly. He heard Chunwang-ro failed as well, someone hums. Onambuk promises brightly that they will make it soon because it is only a matter of time. But who does not know that Lee Gil-ho barks because right now they are struggling and they will go bankrupt waiting. Jo Hoon-suk grins a small mean grin and says, well, they have no choice then. He is a little worried about the autonomy committee, but they should do things their usual way for the first time in a while. Lee Gil-ho murmurs that this is why he calls him Representative Joe, because he has been waiting for those words. The investigation is already done, he asks. Jo Hoon-suk's grin widens. He tells them to take a look. The file slides onto the table with a red seal on the corner. Antidote developer Kim Tae-ju, age 29, eldest son of Brigadier General Kim Ung-bong of the Paju Territory, and discharged as an officer. One executive whistles and asks, wait, because Brigadier General Kim is a master rank awakener. Is the eldest son of a master not too big a target for them? Jo Hoon-suk waves it away. He is no big shot because that is just the surface level information. The real truth is in the details. According to their informants in Paju, his father is a master, but Tae-ju himself is a mana reject. It has also been revealed that he joined the military because he was kicked out of his own home. His biological mother in Paju is dead, and Brigadier General Kim's new wife is Honda Mitsui, a woman of Japanese descent. She has 2 sons of her own and apparently wants Kim Tae-ju dead. The chubby executive by the wall breaks into a delighted smile. He laughs and says he gets it now. It is a common story. He would bet Tae-ju has already cut off all contact with his family. Jo Hoon-suk nods once and confirms it. So he is thinking of meeting Tae-ju first. No matter how much Paek Hong-pyo promised him, if the offer works, they can secure the distribution rights themselves. Someone across the table asks softly what happens if he refuses. Jo Hoon-suk's smile does not change. Then they will just proceed with their usual methods. High above Free City Guri at the Samhan Empire Imperial Army Mount Jiri Magical Beast Defense Corps headquarters, a very different scheme is coming together in the commander's office. A junior officer steps in with a stiff salute. The general at the desk waves him in. The junior reports that yes, they have received the information from the Guri Autonomy Committee. Kim Tae-ju, 29 years old, hailing from Paju, discharged as an officer from the Mount Sarak base at 26, currently classified as a mana reject. The general at the desk leans back and tenses fingers. So, he really is Brigadier General Kim's son, he murmurs. Now that he thinks about it, he has heard rumors about the general's eldest son. He remembers that when the military requested a supply contract before they were rejected due to a lack of stock. Because of His Imperial Majesty's edict, it is difficult to interfere with Guri, so they gave up on it. But fortunately, since Tae-ju is Brigadier General Kim's son and has a military background, things might work out smoothly this time. If they can just secure the antidote, a large-scale subjugation operation will be possible before Mount Jiri's next magical beast wave. He drops his hand onto the report and smiles. They are father and son after all. As long as they have not officially disowned each other, securing the supply is practically guaranteed. This is Lieutenant General Oh Jin-hyung, commander of the Mount Jiri Magical Beast Defense Corps and master rank. He tells his junior officer to contact the Paju territory right away and to tell them that he, Oh Jin-hyung, wishes to speak with Brigadier General Kim. Far to the north of Free City Guri, in the Paju territory, the master of the Great Kim estate finishes a phone call with the last words of a military salute. Brigadier General Kim Ung-bong sets the receiver down and leans back in his study chair with a long, slow sigh. Even a rolling bug has a talent, they say. When did their Tae-ju learn all this? His body was so weak the family could not even send him to college. Behind him, his second wife is already reaching for the phone with an eager, calculating smile. This is Honda Mitsui, a beautiful, sharp-eyed woman of Japanese descent in a wine-red silk dress and heavy jade jewelry. Her voice has the airy sing-song of a lady who is used to getting exactly what she wants. She chirps that they should go down to Guri right now. She will book the train tickets first. After all, Tae-ju has so little social experience, and now that he has all that money in his hands, he might easily get scammed. Ung-bong tells her flatly to just leave him alone. Honda freezes with the receiver halfway to her ear. She asks what he just said. He repeats it firmly. They should just leave the boy be. Tae-ju has already been removed from their family register, and he is a child who long ago left their embrace. She spins toward him and pouts, saying, "Oh, come on." The family roster is one thing, but can he really so easily sever a bond that was given by the heavens? They have to help him. Ung-bong snaps and tells her enough. If she has any conscience left, she should stop. Honda's face tightens into a nasty little smile. She echoes the word conscience back to him. She asks if he already knows about the assassination request. Ung-bong's eyes narrow at that. Even if he did, it does not matter, since Jang In-dong is dead anyway, and there is no evidence left. She waves that off and switches to a real angle. Then at the very least, she pleads he should give the boy a call. He should tell him to supply the military with the antidote. She has been told that if he can persuade Taiju, it will help his own promotion evaluation. How long does he think Kyushi will keep supporting Paju? Kyushi is struggling now too. Taepyeong and Taechon's tuition is tight, and what about their futures? Is Taiju his only son, or what? Ungbang's fists clench white on the armrest. Then she should go and ask Taiju herself, he says. He has already stated clearly what he wants to do. A low growl catches in her throat. He should do as he pleases then. She calls him a great man in mockery, and says she will simply do things her way. He sits alone once she has swept out. He sighs again, this time softer, and rubs the bridge of his nose. Since there had been no contact for months, he really had thought his son was dead. But Taiju was living quite well in Guri. Their boy is spending his remaining life meaningfully in his own way. Thank goodness for that. Down in Free City Guri, at the Munhu Boutique in the Market District, our boy Kim Taiju is turning slowly in front of the tall mirror, while the red-haired fire mage claps her hands with delight. As expected, the coat suits him perfectly. Taiju dips his chin in genuine thanks. A coat made from magical beast byproducts really is something else entirely. It is so light in the shoulder, and yet it has high defense and even temperature control functions built in. He also loves that she dyed it a soft, warm gray to make it less conspicuous, just as he asked. He is really happy about how much space she gave him inside the lining, too. The fire mage tilts her head with a knowing smile. She thought about it while altering the piece, but seeing how many weapons he carries, he must be an awakened working in that line of work. Taiju shrugs mildly and admits it. Yes, something along those lines. Then, tapping her chin, she says she really cannot just accept something this precious for free. She wants to know how much he wants to pay. He wants to know how much it costs. This coat is the price of her life, so please just take it. Taiju does not press her on that. Instead, he brings up something else that has been bothering him. She is giving him something someone else had already reserved, is she not? It must have put her in a difficult position. Her cheeks color faintly and she laughs. If it is Miss Chung Yunhee, it is fine. She asked around and sent Miss Yunhee another item afterwards, so no harm was done at all. Taiju blinks at that. Then a small dangerous smile crosses his lips. Then he says calmly, please give him everything from this rack over here to that rack over there. Her jaw falls open in surprise. He gestures across a wide sweep of the shop at rows of coats and cloaks alongside boots and scarves. He explains that it will be a gift for the orphanage kids at Pake's, and it will boost her sales at the same time. This seems beneficial for both of them. Please ring it up right away. She protests weakly, then throws her hands up and laughs. If he insists that much, then she understands. She will pack it all up and asks him to please wait a moment. As she disappears into the back, she thinks quietly to herself that Sir Taiju is definitely a different kind of awakened from the trash she has been seeing recently. He really is a truly good person. But before she can even finish tying the first parcel, the front bell chimes. A polished dress shoe steps into the shop. A smooth voice says that so he was here and that he has been looking for him for a while. Taiju turns slowly to face him. A well-groomed blonde man in an expensive dark suit is holding out a business card between two fingers. This is Jo Hoon-suk, the CEO of Yae Pharmacy, the very schemer who ordered the file on Taeju's Paju background back in that dark meeting room. Taeju says nothing at first. Jo Hoon-suk reads the silence with a practiced smile and admits that his sudden visit seems to have made him uncomfortable. The young man says flatly that it seems Jo already knows what business Taeju is in. He wants to know how exactly Jo found his location. Jo Hoon-suk bows a shallow, polite bow. There is nothing the Pharmacy Association does not know in Gurye City. He will not beat around the bush. Please allow him to ask for a favor. He wants Taeju to supply the mutant three-striped mosquito antidote to Yae Pharmacy as well. Taeju lets out a small breathy laugh. He asks if this is a favor or a threat. Jo Hoon-suk says smoothly that for now it is a favor. Taeju tells him plainly that he declines. Jo Hoon-suk does not miss a beat, saying he will handle the cancellation fee too. He will pay 3 times the current Peck's drugstore supply price. Taeju says no thanks. He does not want to become someone untrustworthy. Then at least sell him the drug's formula. Jo Hoon-suk tries. He offers 5 billion won for the formula. Taeju's smile turns cold at the edges. He asks if Jo were in his position, would he sell it for such chump change? Jo Hoon-suk's expression stiffens for the first time. The guy walks past him without a second glance. Joe murmurs that Taeju really does not understand what he is saying, and that it is going to be very hard for a man in his position to settle down in Goryeo at this rate. Taeju tells Jo Hoon-suk not to worry about it because he will take care of it all himself. He wishes him a safe trip back. The bell chimes again as the fire mage returns from the back carrying an enormous stack of packages. She asks if there was not a customer here just now. Our boy answers politely that it was just a peddler, so she sent him away. Outside on the Sunset Street, Jo Hoon-suk grinds his teeth and dials a number on his phone. He snarls under his breath, calling Taeju a stiff bastard and vowing that he will regret his choice today. His face rearranges itself into a smooth mask the moment the line connects. He says, "Yes, boss." They should start the operation and do it just the way they usually do. Out on the far outskirts of Goryeo City at a huge open construction site behind a chain-link fence, a crane swings against a sky bleeding orange and rose. A sign at the gate reads, Kim Taeju Mansion. Our boy walks in through the front gate carrying an armful of shopping bags and calls out to the older man standing among the workers, saying he is here. Baek Hong-pyo turns around with genuine surprise. He wants to know what all that in Taeju's hands is. Taeju laughs and holds up the bags. He always gets so much help from boss, so Taeju should consider it a token of appreciation. He bought some clothes for the orphanage kids. Baek Hong-pyo goes red around the eyes and clasps his hands together. He calls Taeju brilliant light and says he will never forget this grace. He will do even better from now on, absolutely. Taeju laughs and says he is glad Baek likes them. He looks up at the half-built mansion behind them and murmurs that everything is going so smoothly thanks to boss. He has worked so hard from purchasing the building all the way through the construction. Then he adds almost casually that he thinks he will accept the proposal Baek mentioned before. Baek Hong-pyo's eyes widen. He asks if Taeju has finally made up his mind. Our boy nods at the question. The CEO of YJ Pharmacy came to see him today. Meeting the man gave him certainty. Baek Hong-pyo bristles, instantly asking if that bastard did anything to harm him. Taeju shakes his head. It was just a small threat, but thanks to that he was reminded once again how a person is treated when they lack power. So he continues, he is going to establish a pharmaceutical company of his own, just as boss suggested before. Please continue to help him out. Baek Hong-pyo laughs from deep in his chest and swears of course he will. Then please finish up the construction well, Taeju says. He is going to be away for a while. Bae asks if he is going somewhere far. Taeju shakes his head with a small smile. Not far at all. Until the company is properly established, he is going to try developing some new drugs. The tale opens with the old lore itself. The formless chaos poison spirit art is the exclusive martial art created by Dang Gunak, the strongest man of the entire Miram world. It combined the Dang clan's own mental cultivation method with the 5 elements of cultivation, being fire, water, wood, earth, and metal. It also folded in enlightenment drawn from countless other martial arts. It consists of 10 stars in all arranged in a great pyramid of poison. Stars 1 and 2 mark the second-rate martial artist. Stars 3 and 4 raise a cultivator into the first rate. Star 5 is the peak realm, and Star 7 is the nature formation. Beyond that lies the summit few ever touch, which includes poison essence projection and poison weapon existence. After the 10th star is climbed, a martial artist must awaken the poison spirit itself through pure enlightenment. Only those who have attained the poison spirit can wield the ultimate technique known as the 10,000 torrential petal rain. That is the very technique that Dang Gunak once used to melt the heavenly demon ruler of the demonic cult with his own poisonous hands. That is what the Martial Alliance Chronicles wrote about Dang Gunak's martial arts. That is the pyramid our boy Kim Taeju is climbing right now, one poisonous star at a time. Deep inside the Mount Jiri magical beast outbreak zone, a green streak of poison energy blazes across the tree canopy and buries itself between the eyes of a bison-sized magical beast. The creature rears once, with blood arcing across the sunlight, and topples in a heavy heap. Taeju drops down beside its shoulder and lets out a slow breath. They called it a poison claw lynx, he mutters, but the thing was as big as a full-grown tiger. Its skin was so tough that both his weapon and his internal energy barely held out. Green aura still coils around his boots as he twists the dagger free. He crouches beside the corpse and hoists up a large purple, faintly glowing poison sac. This poison sac is quite large, he notes. His current level is only the 3rd star of the poison spirit art, and that puts him somewhere between a second-rate and a first-rate martial artist of the Samhan Empire. It is still a shameful level, he admits with a small self-deprecating smile. That is why he is cultivating here on Mount Jiri in the first place, absorbing the poisons of magical beasts one after another to close the gap. With Dangunak's own memories flowing through him, this cultivation is really no different from a review of old lessons. As long as he keeps consuming new poisons, he can grow very quickly. For a while his body could not handle the load, and he was stuck at the 3rd star. But now that his body has stabilized, advancing to the next stage should not be a problem at all, if he can just absorb the poison of the spore poison water deer he was targeting today. He adds that he needs to go recover his flying daggers first. The spore poison water deer is a docile, non-hostile magical beast, our boy explains to himself as he crests the next ridge. A gentle-eyed creature with 2 soft humps on its back grazes peacefully in a clearing. He is on it in a single silent bound. The dagger goes through its skull and the deer drops without a sound. Then the reason the docile little thing is famously terrifying makes itself known. Both humps rupture at once. Fine purple spores burst out in a cloud so thick it swallows half the clearing. Taeju lets the spores wash over him and only blinks. Is this the poison that is supposed to melt straight through gas mask filters, he wonders. It takes a whole hour for these particles to dissipate once they hit open air. Just as he heard, this really is the strongest poison he has encountered so far. He tilts his head and murmurs that this precious stuff cannot be allowed to go to waste. He sinks down cross-legged in the middle of the toxic haze and pulls the drifting cloud inward with a slow, deliberate breath. Condense the poison energy. A shimmering green orb forms between his palms. Absorb it into the body. Green light flows into his chest along the meridians Dangunak once mapped. If he uses the poison spirit art to convert this into internal energy, he tells himself he will reach the 4th star. Hours pass, and he does not count them. He only feels his own ki turning inside him in a great cycle. Because he absorbed all the water deer's poison that had spread through the air, there was so much of the stuff that converting it to internal energy was anything but easy. Still, because he now perfectly understands the toxic properties of it, developing an antidote for it later will be an easy job. Aside from the water deer's own venom, this earth is filled with far more varied poisons than the martial world he came from ever had. Using that advantage he needs to get stronger much faster. The green orb inside him solidifies. It burns brighter, and it burns steadier. He is finally at the 4th star. He sits with the green aura still spiraling around him, and sighs a small tired sigh that it took quite a while to reach. By the time he stands up under an evening sky, the sun is already bleeding across the pine ridges. He stayed at Mount Jiri longer than he had planned to. He has reached the 4th star, and he has figured out the exact ingredients for a spore poison water deer antidote. He hoists his enormous porter backpack onto his shoulders. He should head back now. Being away this long makes him a bit anxious, he admits, because of YJ Pharmacy. Back in Free City Guri at Bake's drugstore, our boy pushes through the front door with a grin and calls out that he is back and asks if Bake has been well. He glances around at the completely empty shelves and adds cheerfully that seeing as there is not a single item left on display, business must still be booming. Baek Hongpyo turns around at the counter and his tired face lights up with relief. Taeju is back after half a month. He was starting to worry because he could not reach him by phone. Baek Sayan steps out from behind him with a small polite bow, welcoming Taeju back. The young man apologizes softly and explains he had his phone off the whole time for training and antidote development. Then he catches the look on their faces and stops. He asks why they are both looking at him that way and whether something happened. Baek Hongpyo opens his mouth twice before he can even get the word out. The pharmaceutical company representatives came by and said that they will not supply Baek's drugstore anymore. They took everything away. On top of that, today, the Autonomy Committee's Drug Approval Department also came in and asked them to hand over the full ingredient list in order to investigate side effects from the mosquito antidote. Taeju's face does not move. He asks quietly if this could also be Jo Hoon-suk's doing. Baek Hongpyo grimaces and says he cannot be 100% certain, but the pattern is the exact same method that Bastard always uses. Jo Hoon-suk is also a general member of the Autonomy Committee itself. Sayan steps closer nervously and asks what happens if they simply do not give them the ingredient list. Baek Hongpyo lowers his eyes to the last remaining sample bottle on the counter. At worst, they could face a full sales ban. Taeju says nothing for a long moment. He looks down at the little brown bottle in his hand and lets the thought settle. Is even the standing committee member dispatched from the Empire in on this too? The man supposed to oversee Guri's autonomy committee might be quietly turning a blind eye. Jo Hoon-suk's attacks must be just beginning now. The actions of Trash never really exceed his expectations, just the same as always. Then the green light kindles behind his eye. There is no compromise for him or for Dangunak with people who operate this way. He will simply have to strike them down first. He lifts his head and smiles at Baek Hongpyo. He tells him they should strike first. If they are going to threaten them, they should at least turn it into a real threat. Baek Hongpyo blinks at the word first. Our boy nods firmly at Baek. They claim that people are getting side effects from taking the antidote right. Then Baek's drugstore simply should not sell it. They should close up shop right now. At Baek's orphanage, under a night sky full of stars, the courtyard smells of roasting meat and children's laughter. The orphans crowd around a long table with drumsticks and cutlets stacked on their plates, gnawing and squealing with pure delight. One of the little ones cries out with grease all around her mouth that it is so delicious. Is this really the flavor that legend calls the finest meat in the whole Samhan Empire? He chews slowly on the first bite. It was actually true. With no known method to remove the venom from the flesh, the range of demand that even reached the imperial capital was priced incomparably higher than gold. That is precisely why he could not have sold this meat for any amount of money before. But now that he has finished the antidote for the spore poison water deer, he is so glad his past self chose to make the water deer antidote next. His original intention was simply to prevent civilian casualties during the next magical beast wave. But with a taste this good, anyone who tries it even once will become a slave to this meat. The kids at the far end scream in delight. It was such a good day. Taeju watches them and lets the thought bloom quietly at the back of his mind. Everyone loves it so much. Should he start a water deer meat business while he is at it? He could supply it to the emperor himself. He could even casually check out the palace's Grand Master level swordsman up close under that pretext. He tucks the thought away for later. Baek Hongpyo comes over with a tear in the corner of his eye and clasps Taeju's hands. He thanks Taeju for providing such precious meat. To think the new drug he was working on was an antidote for the terrifying water deer is amazing to him. But he lowers his voice and asks if it is really okay for them to close the pharmacy and do nothing about the situation. He is a bit worried. Taeju bites off another mouthful and speaks around it, telling Baek it is fine. He should just trust him and wait. He gives Baek a small, sharp smile. They will see who regrets it more if Baek's drugstore is not selling the antidote. 5 days later, Baek's drugstore is still shut tight in broad daylight. A raider with a katana pounds on the closed shutters and swears at nothing in particular. What the hell, it has been 5 days and they are still not open today. He only has a few bottles of antidote left. How is he supposed to hunt at this rate? Behind him, 2 knights in tactical gear mutter to each other. Hey, the rumors must be true, they say. What kind of rumors, the other asks. Adverse reactions to the antidote and people getting sick after taking it. So the autonomy committee demanded the full formula and Baek could not handle the pressure and closed the shop. Another chimes in that he heard that too. They are saying Baek's drugstore sales may be officially suspended. The blonde knight in the crowd loses his patience and spits that those bastards are just spouting nonsense because they want money for themselves. He steps forward with his hand on the pommel of his sword. The tension crackles through the whole plaza. Then a low, calm voice cuts across the crowd. That is enough of this. He will not tolerate any disturbances. Everyone freezes at the sound. Someone whispers that it is Master Lee Jung-hak and the captain of the vigilante group himself. The young administrative officer clears his throat and reads from a paper. This is a decision handed down by the Standing Committee. Due to reports of side effects from Baek's drugstore's antidote sales are banned until the formula analysis is complete, so all of them should not loiter around here making a racket. The blonde knight explodes at that. He says it is ridiculous. He was part of the clinical trials himself and he is perfectly fine. How are they supposed to hunt without the antidote? Are they supposed to go back to wearing insect-proof suits the way they used to? He snaps that he cannot go back to those old days. They should just let them sell it, or at the very least bring witnesses who actually suffered these side effects. He asks if they are saying it does not matter to the officer because he is a master and he chooses to poison people. Lee Jung-hak just watches this quietly with one hand resting on his hip. How amusing, he murmurs to himself. The administrative officer wheels on the blonde and sneers, asking since when did Trash start talking back to him. Then he waves the knight off, saying never mind. The knight is not even worth drawing his sword for. He tells him to get lost. He turns on his heel and stalks away through the crowd, muttering to himself under his breath, that administrative officer bastard, making him run his annoying errands. If it were not for the majority vote in the committee, he swears he would handle things differently. His name is Park Jin-tae, and he is so, goes the running joke, a man of loyalty. At the same moment across town, a sleek white car pulls up to a quiet curb. Inside, a silver-haired man in an expensive dark suit is smiling into his phone. This is Jo Hoon-suk himself. He purrs into the receiver that to have the terrifying Lee Jung-hak completely under his thumb is deeply moving to him. Even if Lee is a master rank, he explains almost warmly at the end of the day, he is only one of the 3 standing committee members. He cannot do anything against the majority's rule. As long as they all stick to maintaining public order the way they are now, everything stays under control. Jo Hoon-suk tilts his head back and grins wider. Normally, so long as the lines are not crossed, no one really cares about the annoying little things always going on in Goryeo for people in their position. As the officer had suggested, so long as the master keeps quiet, this will be wrapped up soon enough. They have already started the next phase. He will reward the officer handsomely. They will not last a week at most, unless money suddenly falls out of the sky, that is. Somewhere far above the Pharma District at the Samhan Empire Imperial Army Mount Jiri Magical Beast Defense Corps Commander's office, our boy is doing exactly that, making money fall out of the sky. Lieutenant General Oh Jin-hyung sits back behind his enormous desk with his arms folded and one eyebrow raised. He asks slowly if Taeju is serious about this. Taeju nods and confirms that yes, he is serious. He will supply 1 million bottles of the mutant 3-striped mosquito antidote to the Mount Jiri Magical Beast Defense Corps. The price will remain the same as the retail price at 50,000 won per bottle, making a grand total of 50 billion won. Oh Jin-hyung's mouth hangs open. He echoes the number back hoarsely, saying 50 billion won is an enormous amount. A silence stretches through the room. An adjutant standing behind the general leans down and murmurs discreetly that the commander seems to be in a very good mood. Taeju tilts his head. He sees the concern now. He asks politely if the commander is perhaps upset that Taeju is offering it to the military at the regular retail price. Oh Jin-hyung finally recovers his voice. He asks if Taeju is actually sure about this and whether he will have any profit left at all after selling to them this cheaply. He turns to his adjutant and asks if they can cover 50 billion won from the Corps Reserve Fund. The adjutant confirms that yes sir, it is possible. Oh Jin-hyung says to deposit half of it immediately as the down payment then. The young man says to wait a moment with a small polite smile. He has one more item to offer. Oh Jin-hyung asks with amusement if Taeju is not already selling the mosquito antidote right now. Taeju shakes his head. Since he plans to establish his own pharmaceutical company very soon, he recently developed another new medicine. Our boy motions for a plate to be brought in. He asks the commander to please have a taste. The commander cuts a small piece with the little steak knife on the tray and puts it in his mouth. He chews once and then his whole body freezes up. He stammers and looks down at the plate. He asks if this is not just meat. Taeju answers politely that yes it is, and that it was refined for the lieutenant general specifically. The commander mutters that it is not bad while still chewing and mentions he has been cutting back on meat lately for his health. Then Taeju continues and suggests that the commander should present it to the emperor. His imperial majesty will absolutely love it, because this, he adds, is actually spore poison water deer meat. Oh Jin-hyung nearly spits out his mouthful. He asks if Taeju is talking about the water deer whose meat is said to taste better than anything in the entire empire. Taeju says with a small bow that yes, that is the one. The commander stares at him for a long, dangerous moment. Then Oh Jin-hyung sets his fork down and looks at Taeju with new eyes entirely. He has felt this since earlier, he admits, but Taeju is a young man whose character is hard to find these days. The military needs people in his position. He asks what Taeju says about re-enlisting. A commission on the spot with full stripes attached. He can name his own posting. Our boy stands very still in front of the desk. Green light does not quite kindle behind his eyes, but only just. To hell with the antidote contract. Should he just kill this man right here? High above the clouds on the frontier of the Samhan Empire, Lieutenant General Oh Jin-hyung stands on the edge of a great cliff and speaks half to his adjutant and half to the sky. The Mount Jiri Magical Beast Defense Corps sits on the outermost edge of the Samhan Empire itself. The Corps' mission is to control the magical beast waves and to keep the beast population at a manageable level. He admits with a small dry laugh that he despaired when he was first appointed as commander of this place and asks if his adjutant would not have felt the same. Even if he successfully holds off the beast waves at the border, it is merely what is expected of him. If he fails, he is the one who has to take responsibility. But finally, an opportunity has come to him as well. The water deer antidote, he murmurs, stroking his beard. He can taste the promotion evaluation already. His adjutant salutes crisply behind him. He reports that the down payment transfer and the additional matters the general instructed have all been completed. Just as the commander expected, the conflict between Beck's drugstore and the Pharmacy Association, led by Jo Hoon-suk, is intensifying. Regarding the daily newspaper matter, the commander additionally instructed an exclusive report on the antidote contract, and the new water deer hunt is scheduled to be released tomorrow. Oh Jin-hyung's grin widens. He tells the adjutant good job and to keep an eye on Kim Tae-ju from now on and help him whenever he needs it. Then more gently he adds that the adjutant has worked hard assisting him through everything. A man with no connections right up until now. The adjutant blinks in surprise and thanks the commander for recognizing it, even if it is only just now. Oh Jin-hyung slams his hand down on the desk with enthusiasm. He tells the adjutant they should make good use of this opportunity and rise together all the way to the imperial family itself. The adjutant nods and swears he will believe in the commander and follow him. Two grown officers of the Samhan Empire proceed to raise their fists in the office and cheer at the tops of their lungs for Kim Tae-ju. Down at Kim Tae-ju's half-built residence on the outskirts of Free City Guri, in the study of the newly finished wing, Baek Hong-pyo lays a stack of documents in front of our boy and reports that the company's establishment is proceeding very smoothly. If Tae-ju just decides on a company name, Baek will quickly wrap up the rest. Tae-ju thanks him for the hard work. Baek Hong-pyo smiles proudly. Fortunately, the contract with the military was also successful. Lieutenant General Oh Jin-hyung basically set the whole stage for them on his own, sparing them a great deal of trouble. He subtly leaked the news of both the antidote contract and the water deer hunt as an exclusive to a friendly newspaper. Baek slides the front page across the table. The headline reads in bold, asking what Joe's new drug is supposed to be. The story pointedly positions YJ Pharmacy as the desperate copycat, while Baek's side has the Empire's military behind them. As expected, Baek murmurs approvingly that man did not become a commander by dumb luck. With this much, the tide has turned in their favor. Tae-ju confirms that yes, 25 billion won was deposited from the Core Reserve Fund down payment, and he processed the loan repayment right away. Baek Hong-pyo grins nastily. Out of pure spite, he adds, he then cut all ties with that bank and cancelled every account he had over there. Tae-ju laughs and tells him good job. Please use the rest of the money to manage the orphanage. Then Baek Hong-pyo's face turns serious. He says slowly that he has been thinking about it a lot, but he really does not think he can run this pharmaceutical company alone. He needs a reliable partner for this. Our boy sets down his pen and looks him in the eye. He asks Baek quietly if he would please be Tae-ju's business partner. Baek Hong-pyo's mouth drops open in shock. He asks if Tae-ju really means with him of all people. He has only ever run a small neighborhood pharmacy his whole life. He does not know how to sell things at scale. He does not think he would be much help at all. Tae-ju replies calmly that this is not true. He himself only knows how to make medicine, and he does not know how to sell it either. He truly cannot do this business without Baek's help. Baek stares at him for a long moment. Then he laughs a shaky laugh. He says he has already received plenty of help from Tae-ju, but to think Tae-ju actually views him this way. All right then, it is bound to succeed, so he will join. But only under a lopsided share, with barely 1 share for every 9 Tae-ju takes. The young man tells him firmly that no Baek is going to be the one actually running operations, so he needs to step in completely as a real partner. The split has to be closer than that. If Baek does not accept, then there will be no company at all. Baek Hong-pyo grumbles and finally raises his hands in surrender. He will gratefully accept. However, he adds slyly that he really cannot be the one running operations directly. He is just a pharmacy expert. It just so happens that there is somebody far more capable already on their side. Taeju guesses it is an orphanage alumni. Baek Hongpyo laughs and says better than that. Taeju has already met her once in front of the orphanage bunker. Her name is Baek Soyeon. Taeju nods and says he remembers her. She is the smartest among all of Baek's children, the old pharmacist declares proudly. Having taken care of orphans for over 20 years and having interned in society with various professions is her true power. If Taeju is fine with it, he will call her in right away. Our boy says with a small warm smile that anyone capable is welcome. They shake on it. Baek Hongpyo thinks to himself with a satisfied grin that he was right to partner with Taeju. By the way, he adds that a company name just came to mind. The Tae from Taeju and the Hong from Hongpyo, please register it as Tae Hong Pro. Taeju answers that it sounds good and he will register it right away. Then Baek's face shifts again. He mentions that he also called in a group of Awakeners and Mana-compatibles who grew up in the orphanage. Taeju's brow furrows at that. Suddenly and without warning, why is he doing this? Baek explains gently that Jo Hoon-suk is the type to use force, so he called them in to serve as Taeju's personal bodyguards. Taeju's eyes widen at the word bodyguards. He crosses his arms and shakes his head. He is completely fine, and please have them protect the orphanage instead of him. Baek Hongpyo sputters, asking who is protecting who exactly. Even so, he mutters to himself, watching Taeju's still expression with a nervous line of sweat down his temple. Just what is this man trusting to act so confident? He does not have any marking on his face, so he is definitely not an awakened. He is mana-compatible at best. He said he used to be a soldier, but is he really just relying on that? Taeju notices the look and gives him a tired half smile. He says Baek looks doubtful again and asks if enough trust has not built up by now. Baek jumps out of his chair with both hands raised. He insists that of course he trusts Taeju. If he does not trust him, who on earth would he trust? The guy tilts his head and murmurs, all right. They should make things very clear this time, he says. Please call all of them right now. Baek asks why, with genuine confusion. To prove his abilities, Taeju answers as he stands up, and to test the spore poison antidote out in the field at the same time. He shrugs on the illusion fox leather coat as he walks out of the study. He will go on a little hunt with them. Deep in the Mount Jiri magical beast border zone, the pines whisper around a small group of hunters, picking their way up a hidden trail. One of the Awakener alumni cannot stop staring at the gray coat swinging around Taeju's shoulders. He whispers to his neighbor that is the illusion fox leather coat that costs over 4 billion won. Dazzling is what it is. Another mutters back that the gear is excellent, but he does not have a marking on his face. If he had worked as a porter, he must be a mana-compatible or a regular civilian at best. It is dangerous from here on out. Then the party's lead swordsman turns around and bows respectfully. He introduces himself as Baek Chong-hoon, 25 years old, and Awakener rank user class swordsman. He is one of the orphanage alumni Baek Hongpyo called in for the job. Magical beasts will appear from here on out, he says, so his team will take the lead. Their father strictly requested that they protect the boss. Taeju calls him Hyung-nim gently. Baek Chong-hoon blinks at that. Taeju repeats it and says, Hyung-nim. Just call him Hyung-nim, please. Our boy scratches the back of his neck with a rueful smile and thinks quietly to himself that he thought he was going to be the older one here. Fine, then it does not matter. Baek Chong-hoon nods professionally again and asks Taeju to please step behind his coat and stay there. Even a coat this fine will restrict his movements during combat. As an awakened, his ability to respond to danger really is better than Taeju's in that kind of situation. Taeju watches him quietly for a long beat. Baek Chong-hoon flinches and quickly apologizes, asking if he has made his boss uncomfortable. Taeju tells him no with a soft smile. He is used to this kind of concern. Taeju is just worried because Chong-hoon is not an awakened. Well, Taeju coughs and says they can talk more about the details after taking care of that first. Chong-hoon tilts his head and asks what he means by that. Red eyes ignite between the pines all around them. Wind whips through the underbrush from nowhere at all. Baek Chong-hoon stares wide-eyed at the shapes shifting in the dark. He stammers out the name in shock. Storm Martins are here. Red eyes ignite between every pine trunk on the ridge, and the wind starts howling from all directions at once. Baek Chong-hoon whirls with his sword drawn and breath catching in his throat. His team clusters behind him with hands shaking on their weapons. Then a gray coat drops down between the trees in a soft rush of air. Our boy Kim Taeju lands lightly in the middle of the swarm, with one hand already lifted. He does not draw the willow leaf flying daggers he carries in his inner lining, because there is not even time for that. Instead, dozens of tiny black spheres pour out of his sleeve at once, glinting in the sunlight as they scatter into the underbrush. The pellets explode on impact. Pink poison bursts through the pines in a ring of overlapping shockwaves. When the smoke clears, there is nothing left standing but Taeju and the ash of the storm marten swarm. The beasts that were supposed to be so strong that no user rank could even touch them have just been erased completely. Baek Chang-hoon stares at the empty forest with his mouth still half open. His team stands silent behind him. Nobody is quite sure what they just watched happen. Taeju dusts his sleeves and clicks his tongue at the ground. A whole swarm of storm martens of all things. There was not even time to pull out the willow leaf flying daggers he reuses every hunt. Taeju glances back at the boys behind him. He cannot show his face to Mr. Baek if these guys got hurt. So in the end, to sweep them away quickly, he poured out the Tang clan's anti-personnel hidden weapons, the torrential Dan pear blossom needles, and the iron pellets. The problem, he mutters as he scans the smoking clearing, is that over 200 of those hidden weapons are now entirely unrecoverable. He winces at the waste. How much did all that just cost him? Every time this happens, he thinks bitterly to himself. He desperately wishes he had reached the 7th star of the poison spirit art already. Then he could just stretch out his hand and the whole scatter would come flying back to him. Baek Chang-hoon clears his throat behind him. He says carefully that he has heard masters can hide their own facial tattoos. He asks Taeju if he is perhaps a master because there is no other explanation for what he just saw. Our boy turns and gives him a small, warm, absolutely disarming smile. He replies gently that he can say with total certainty that he is not an awakener. Whatever the case, Taeju says with the stiff dignity of a man who has just watched all his assumptions get vaporized, alongside the Martins he will take the lead from now on. Chang-hoon starts to mention that his father said something, but Taeju waves that off with a light hand. Right, he will go ahead. He strolls past Baek Chang-hoon into the deeper woods. Boy Chang-hoon watches him go, thinking to himself, asking what exactly Taeju's true identity is. Sometime later, the party creeps through a quieter part of the forest, and Baek Chang-hoon spots something between the trunks, a soft brown creature with 2 humps standing perfectly still in a clearing. One of the team whispers, asking if that is a water deer. He asks what Taeju is planning here. Taeju murmurs low, telling them to look at that. Even the deer knows that people will not touch him because of his poison. Then our boy raises a hand and passes small brown bottles down the line. He tells everyone calmly to take the medicine. They are going to catch that creature. Chang-hoon sputters, asking if they really are going to do this. The label reads, Water Deer Antidote. He heard it is still in clinical trials. Can they really trust it? Chang-hoon closes his hand around his own bottle and shakes his head. He tells the doubter firmly that no, they have to trust it. They are already in the same boat as his own father. He made the antidote, and he just showed them what kind of power he actually has. The team drinks in silence. Then the bearded one lifts his chin and says, now they have to prove themselves too. Baek Chang-hoon nods and rolls his shoulders back. He will engage first, and if it tries to run, they should please support him with the mana gun. Baek Chang-hoon draws his sword and closes the distance in a single hard sprint. The water deer's head snaps up, and it lunges to headbutt him at surprising speed for something that looks so soft. He blocks the first blow hard, and then his eyes narrow. A great arc of blue sword light comes down and splits the water deer clean from crown to tail. The 2 halves of the deer flop into the ferns. Someone cries out to watch out because it is going to blow. Both humps rupture at once. A whole clearing's worth of fine purple spore poison boils up into the treetops. Baek Chang-hoon flinches instinctively and then blinks. He is completely fine. So is the whole team. One of the boys punches the air and laughs, saying he is completely fine. Thank goodness, Baek Chang-hoon breathes out. The antidote actually worked. Taeju walks calmly through the drifting spore cloud. With the antidote, he says, with a small shrug, something with this kind of threat level is really easy. A water deer is normally all bark and no bite. Without its poison, it is a very weak creature overall. The bearded team member steps up and bows apologetically. He is sorry for doubting the antidote. He believed in Taeju, who is the one who made the mosquito antidote to begin with. If there are no issues, he says they should keep going. The hunt continues from here. The team chorus back in agreement. Taeju pauses at the tree line. He turns back with a small mischievous smile. He asks if they guys know how to butcher because please secure that water deer's meat first. Once the antidote is officially released to the public, water deer are going to be hunted to extinction. This meat, he adds with a wink, is worth its weight in gold. Very far away from the pine forests of Mount Jiri, at the northern edge of what was once Manchuria, the skyscrapers of the Samhan Empire capital of New Seoul rake the clouds. In one particular black glass tower, the words Marine Group Headquarters are engraved above the lobby doors. Up on the strategic planning floor, a young woman in a crisp white shirt is typing at her workstation. This is Baek Soyeon, 30 years old, and the youngest manager in Marine Group's strategic planning department. A pair of polished shoes stops beside her cubicle. A voice says, "Hey, Manager Baek," with a small, unpleasant edge to it. She answers politely, saying, "Yes, Deputy Head." The man leaning on the edge of her desk is bald, wearing wire-rimmed glasses and a faintly sinister smile. This is Deputy Head Jun Ho-han of Marine Group's strategic planning department. He tells her he wants to ask her something point blank. She grew up in Baek's orphanage, did she not? With Paek Hong-pyo as the director there. Baek Soyeon's fingers pause over her keyboard. She asks quietly why he is bringing up her father. He purrs that, so it is true after all. His memory was correct. He grins the grin of a man who has just found the exact leverage he was looking for. She should drop all the projects she is working on right now, he says. Baek Soyeon asks what he means by that, half rising from her chair. Deputy Head Jun Ho-han leans a little closer over her desk, and his glasses catch the office light. Instead, he tells her softly she should head down to Guri and handle one small job for him. He is asking her, he adds with a smile that does not reach his eyes, for a favor. Baek Soyeon asks him carefully what he is even talking about all of a sudden. Jun Ho-han pushes a folded newspaper across her keyboard. He asks if she has not seen the paper. The rumor about that startup company Taehung Bio. The headline reads that Taehung Bio has signed a contract with the military, and underneath in smaller type, it mentions the development of a spore poison water deer antidote. She says slowly that she means the spore poison water deer antidote. Of course she has read it. Then why is she pretending not to know? Jun Ho-han presses. Baek's drugstore is a subsidiary of Taehung Bio. That rumor is already out on the market. She breathes out, asking what he just said, because her father never mentioned anything about that. Jun Ho-han says with a dismissive flick of the paper that, well, it is not important anyway. He leans in a little closer. She is to go down to Gurye right now and stick close to her father. She should dig up whatever info she can on the antidote. Secure the formula too. She knows who he serves, right? Baek Soyeon stares straight through him. Is he telling her to betray her father and act as a spy right now? She swallows hard at the thought. Her phone lights up on the desk before she can finish her thought. The caller ID reads, "Father." She glances up quickly and asks if she may take this call for a moment because it is from her father. Jun Ho-han grunts and tells her to keep it brief and make a decision quickly. He has to go report to his own boss as well. She turns her back to him and lifts the phone. What her father says on the other end of that line is not shown to anyone in the office. Jun Ho-han taps his fingers on her desk with obvious impatience. He sneers that it took a while. He asks if she has decided. Seon answers evenly that yes, she will go down to Gurye. Jun Ho-han beams, calling it an excellent choice, and already reaches to pull a folder from his jacket. He says they should discuss the details. However, she interrupts him. Seon holds up her Marine Group employee ID card between two fingers. Then she opens her hand and lets it drop. She is quitting this crappy company. Jun Ho-han's mouth opens and closes without sound. She walks past him toward the elevators and thinks quietly to herself that it really was annoying how a man that short had always managed to look down on people that hard. Down in Free City Gurye, high on the upper floor of the tall building that Kim Taeju just bought under his own name, the night sky sits full of stars over the lit-up rooftop. Baek Chang-hoon and his team come off the freight elevator, lugging enormous backpacks stuffed with butchered water deer. Our boy tells them warmly that they all did great work. Baek Chang-hoon salutes with a tired grin and tells Hyung Nim he worked hard too. Please head back to the orphanage and get some rest. Taeju will handle the rest of the loading himself. Baek Chang-hoon's brow furrows at that. What about his escort? His father repeatedly told him to make sure of that. Taeju waves it off. Does he still think Taeju needs one after seeing him today? Please go and protect the orphanage children and the director instead. Baek Chung-hoon sighs and guesses so. Taeju turns and calls to the rest of them, telling them if they are done cleaning up to pack the things because they are heading home. The team files out. He watches their taillights fade down the driveway. Actually, the orphanage really will be safe. Touching the only orphanage in Gurye would mean dealing with the citizens' anger afterward. But there are plenty of crazy bastards in this world, especially here in Gurye. That is exactly why he needs reliable people in Baek Chung-hoon's crew. Once the company's organization is properly established and there are just enough people to process the antidote ingredients, he will finally have some breathing room to develop new medicines. He originally just wanted to make enough money to settle down, but things have gotten much bigger than expected. Well, our boy adds, with a small tired smile, that earning big is not a bad thing at all. Thanks to that, he was actually able to buy a place to live. His own house for the first time in his life. It really does feel weird to him. He runs his fingers absently over a small pale statue near the door as he walks in. The memories come without asking. He thought he was going to die in Paju after being born as a Mana reject. But he clung to life, and then he was nearly killed after being chased into the military by his stepmother. After awakening through the soul sharing with Tangunak, he moved to Gurye and lived as a porter and developed the antidote. The biggest gain of it all, he decides, is that he met good people along the way. It has really been quite a turbulent ride in such a short time. Gurye will be the starting point, the foundation for him to proudly stand on his own. Down on the street below, a large brawny man in a dark jacket stands staring up at Kim Taeju's building with a scowl. Beside him, a skinny minion nods eagerly. This is Ma Sang-shik, and he is the Gurye Villain Syndicate boss and rank beginner awakener. A newcomer in Gurye is already buying up real estate, and that is bullshit, he growls. The minion offers helpfully that it is because the mosquito antidote was a huge hit. He hears the water deer antidote is coming out soon too. Ma Sang-shik whirls on him and snaps that he already knows that. The minion apologizes quickly. Ma Sang-shik clicks his tongue. He mutters that what a waste this whole thing is. If it were not for Jo Hoon-suk's specific request, he would have just kidnapped that little fucker and kept the antidote formula for himself. The minion whispers his name nervously. Ma Sang-shik shakes his head. He knows they cannot let Boss Joe's drug supply get cut off, so he has to do exactly what Joe says. He tells his crew to move. He motions them up the stairs and hisses out the plan. Once they get in, do not talk to the target. Just stick the syringe in right away. Once Taeju gets a taste of the drug, his eyes will roll back, and they can quietly load him into the car. They slip inside and creep down the hallway in the dark. A syringe glows faint purple in the minion raised hand. He rounds the corner. Taeju is sitting perfectly still in the shadow of the couch, with his back to the door. Ma Sang-shik minion lunges forward. A very calm hand catches Ma Sang-shik's wrist in midair. Our boy murmurs into the dark that he has been thinking about something. Green light kindles behind his eye. He was originally just going to let Ma Sang-shik inject him with it. This bastard was awake the whole time. Ma Sang-shik tries to twist his wrist free. He snarls at his own hand, demanding to know what is happening, and telling his fingers to stick it in already. His fingers refuse to move at all. He stammers that it is just that his hand will not move. Taeju says softly that by the way he knew Ma Sang-shik's crew was here from the start too. Ma Sang-shik's minion head jerks around wildly. He screams, asking where his syringe went. Taeju is already 3 steps away, holding the purple syringe up between 2 fingers. He lifted it out of Minion's hand without anyone seeing how. One of the crew stammers behind Ma Sang-shik, asking the boss if he is sure this guy is a Mana reject. Ma Sang-shik does not answer that. The young man tilts the syringe and studies the liquid inside with mild curiosity. He wonders aloud whether the effects of it would drop if he just drinks it instead. Ma Sang-shik's face flushes red. That little worm has completely lost his mind. Stealing his drug and running his mouth in front of a user rank. He stammers, asking why on earth Taeju would drink it. The syringe hits the floor empty a moment later. Our boy says quietly that so this is what drugs feel like. Then the purple aura erupts around him. A grin spreads across his face, and it is the sort of grin nobody wants to see on the person they just tried to sedate. Deep down in his own body, whatever chemical Ma Sang-shik was carrying is being ground into fresh internal energy by the formless chaos poison spirit art. There have long been rumors that a syndicate in the Gurye slums has been distributing drugs. Since even the autonomy committee cannot stop them, someone high up in Gurye must be backing them. Those very drugs are right in front of Taeju now. He turns the syringe of purple liquid in his fingers and thinks to himself that drugs are also a type of poison, a poison with new properties he has never tasted before. At the 4th star of the poison spirit art, his body can easily handle mere drugs. Taeju remembers what the old supreme poison demon Tang Gunok once said. Back when Tang Gunok roamed the Muriam world, he encountered all sorts of drugs from poppy to fantasy pills to paradise incense. He took them too. A faint smile pulls at the corner of our boy's mouth, so he takes them too. To push his poison essence higher, Taeju absorbs the drugs sitting inside their bodies. A dark green pulse crawls out of his palm, and Ma Sang-shik's henchmen sag against the concrete as the chemicals are drained clean out of their veins. Ma Sang-shik's eyes widen in raw panic. He stammers and demands to know how Taeju just pulled the drugs straight out of his body. Our boy tells him it feels good, does it not? Then he says now it is Ma Sang-shik's turn, and he should tell him who ordered this whole thing. Ma Sang-shik shakes his head and blurts out that if he talks, he will die. Taeju shrugs at that. Fine then, so be it. He will just make a new person out of him too. Somewhere across the city, a black sedan carves down the morning highway. 2 figures ride in the back seat, with a woman with dark waved hair and a sharp-featured man beside her. The mood between them is anything but calm. The man confirms that the one who reported everything is Kim Taeju, the newcomer behind the mosquito poison antidote. He has heard that Ma Sang-shik's gang was caught breaking into Taeju's building and attempting a kidnapping. Since the vigilante group has uncovered the mastermind, they are moving in to take the culprits away and run a thorough investigation to prove their own reliability. The man rubs her temple and mutters that this is Jo Hoon-suk's doing. He snaps that if he was going to try something, he should have gone all in for the long play, and now his sloppy execution has left a flaw on the record. Kim Taeju is a newcomer who has barely settled in Guri, she notes, but the real problem is Paek Hung-pyo, because that man is far too respected for a quiet cover-up. Dragging Jo Hoon-suk in and forcing a settlement would be the fastest way. But there is no way that narrow-eyed bastard will agree to it quietly. The man beside her sighs and points out that in the end the conflict is just going to drag on. Since a thorough investigation was requested, it is going to be a huge burden on the vigilantes as well. The woman's eyes narrow. She asks quietly whether that really is the only way forward. Back at Taeju's building in Gurye, Ma Sang-shik and his 4 gang members are on their knees in the plaza. Their eyes have gone hollow and their mouths slack. Ma Sang-shik crawls forward on trembling hands and whimpers for drugs, begging to please just give him some. That is the moment the vigilante group sweeps in through the gate. This is Lee Jung-hak, the master rank awakener and standing committee member, strolling in with an easy smile and a bright greeting for everyone gathered. Ma Sang-shik lifts his ruined face and gasps the same word. Lee Jung-hak tells him to step aside. Ma Sang-shik reaches out one more time, muttering about drugs please. Lee Jung-hak's smile does not move at all. By the authority granted to him by His Majesty, he announces he will carry out a summary execution. Green sword light flashes at his hand and slashes toward the kneeling boss. Our boy's voice cracks across the plaza telling him to stop right there. Taeju steps between Lee Jung-hak and the trembling gang. He asks why the master is killing the witness. Ma Sang-shik seizes the opening and spits out the truth. Jo Hoon-suk, the CEO of Yaje Pharmacy, is the one who told them to kidnap Kim Taeju and get him addicted to drugs. Lee Jung-hak's expression barely shifts. He remarks that judging by the situation, it seems Taeju already knows everything. Then he tilts his head and asks who this young man is. Taeju tells him flat and plain. He is Kim Taeju. Something clicks behind Lee Jung-hak's eyes. He mutters the word antidote and lets his gaze crawl over Taeju's face. He says they should take a look at that famous face. His look sharpens with recognition. Jung-hak has seen this face before. In the back of his memory, a lean porter with a heavy backpack once passed through his line of sight. His mouth curls into a smirk. So Taeju is that porter bastard from back then. Taeju says nothing to that. Then Lee Jung-hak asks whether he is really the one who made the antidote, and Taeju answers yes. Lee Jung-hak scoffs and asks if that is supposed to be such a big deal. He lifts his sword and lets a purple lightning aura crawl along the blade. Here in Guri, he says his word is law. He makes Taeju one last offer about these 4 guys on the ground and suggests they just slit their throats and wrap this whole thing up. Taeju answers cold and flat that he cannot do that. Lee Junghak's smile turns into a blade of its own. He says then Taeju should try and stop him. The plaza erupts with violence. Lee Junghak's sword crashes down in a blue arc, and Taeju pivots aside on the thin edge between one heartbeat and the next. Green sparks fly from the impact. In a single trade of blows, our boy leaves a fine red line across Lee Junghak's cheek. The master's eyes widen for the first time. He asks whether Taeju really was the one who caught these guys. Then he laughs low and admits that to leave even a scratch on his body, Taeju has some real skill considering what he is. In that case, Lee Junghak decides for the crime of interfering with a master twice he sentences Taeju to death. Taeju's mouth twitches into something that is almost a smile. He asks whether a master really is all that impressive. He is genuinely curious, he says. Exactly what gives the guildmaster the confidence to act this way. His feet slide into the phantom mirage steps, and his silhouette splits into afterimages that flicker across the plaza. Blades clash across the open space. Lee Junghak shouts for him to stop, but Taeju does not stop. Lee Junghak launches into the air with killing intent, and his technique hammers down toward Taeju's skull. Just as the blow is about to land, a heavy voice cuts through the chaos. The voice tells Lee Junghak that is enough of this. From the edge of the plaza, a tall bearded man steps into the yard with a lion crest gleaming at his shoulder. Every fighter present freezes at the weight of his presence. For a long moment, nothing else moves in the plaza. Then the newcomer speaks again. It has been a while, has it not? Lee Junghak's jaw tightens. He asks what brings this man all the way out here to the free city. The bearded man tilts his head with a slow, deliberate smile and answers that he did not realize he needed permission just to come here. Lee Junghak's smile turns brittle. He says then he will take that to mean the military is interfering with Guri's affairs. The bearded man waves the accusation off. He tells Lee to calm down because he is not here as a soldier. Today he is just a civilian named Oh Jin-hyung. Lee Junghak's eyes flick left, then right, and land back on Oh Jin-hyung's face. 4 masters, all military and all sharp with confidence. Not the kind of people you can just talk things out with. His shoulders drop into a bitter laugh. He has no choice but to retreat for now. He tells Oh Jin-hyung that he will definitely repay this humiliation one day. Before Lee can walk off, Oh Jin-hyung raises a hand. He tells him to hold it and to leave them here. Ma Sung-shik and his 4 kneeling gang members are coming with him. Lee Junghak's face darkens. He thought Oh Jin-hyung said the military was not getting involved. Oh Jin-hyung asks what exactly Lee is trying to pull. These guys tried to kidnap a close friend of his, he says. Does Lee really expect him to just turn a blind eye when he knows that? This is a clear violation of the imperial decree, and if His Majesty the Emperor were to find out about it, things would go badly for everyone. Oh Jin-hyung's smile finally cracks. He asks whether Lee Junghak really thinks he is a joke just because they are both masters. In answer, Oh Jin-hyung's aura pulses out of him in a heavy wave that makes the very air lean back. Lee Junghak's throat bobs. Oh Jin-hyung says softly that if he slits Lee's throat right here, what kind of punishment does Lee think His Majesty would give him? Lee Junghak breathes out a curse. He asks whether Oh really thinks he can get away with something this bold. Behind Lee, his subordinates bristle and glare. One of them growls that all Lee has to do is give the order and they can do it right now. He asks if Oh really thought they would not dare touch him. In the silence that follows, no blade leaves its sheath. Lee Junghak clicks his tongue and orders his people back to the car. He is heading back. As Lee Junghak's convoy pulls out of the plaza, Oh Jin-hyung watches with folded arms and mutters under his breath that this punk has been coddled too much in Guri. He turns then, and his whole face softens as he faces our boy. He asks if Taeju is hurt anywhere. Taeju shakes his head and says he is fine. Oh Jin-hyung laughs and tells him not to worry because he will handle it personally. The older man clears his throat and adds that he contacted Taeju on such short notice, so thank you for coming right away. Taeju asks whether Mr. Beck is doing all right. Oh Jin-hyung admits it was almost a disaster. From the side of the plaza, Baek Hung-pyo steps forward with a relieved smile. He tells our boy it is a good thing he called Lieutenant General Oh, because the situation is now completely sorted out. They did not lose those bastards to Lee Junghak either. Oh Jin-hyung and Taeju trade a look. Oh tells him he will take care of those bastards personally, and the one pulling their strings too. Taeju shakes his head. He tells Oh he does not have to because this is a personal matter of his. Oh Jin-hyung's expression turns firm. This is not just Taeju's problem, he says. What if these guys end up causing a disruption in the antidote production? Their entire corps' safety is on the line here. The young man goes quiet for a moment, then dips his head and says he understands. General O adds that he will tie up the loose ends himself, so our boy will not have to get tangled up with Lee Jung-hak anymore. Taeju stands still in the wind, thinking about Lee Jung-hak. He looks down at his hand. The guildmaster was definitely hit by his flying dagger. Is poison still ineffective against a master, though? Lee Jung-hak did not show a single symptom right up until the end. If Lieutenant General O had not stepped in when he did, would Taeju really have been able to win in that situation? The thought settles into him with real weight. He must become even stronger. He looks up at the sky above his building, at the wind rolling across the roofs of Guri, and the answer plants itself in his chest, so that something with this kind of danger never happens again. Miles down the highway, Lee Jung-hak's black sedan carves through traffic. In the back seat, the guildmaster snarls under his breath that Kim Taeju and Oh Jin-hyung both need to die. Then his gaze catches on his own hand, and the shallow scratch that Punk left on him earlier is still there, faintly glowing. His breath stalls in his chest. Could it be poison? A raw green pulse crawls up his arm. His whole hand blooms into a sick green haze, with veins pushing to the surface. He gasps, asking what this is. From the rearview mirror, his driver's eyes widen, and he calls out to his guildmaster in alarm. Lee Jung-hak's face is already flushing green, with sweat pouring down his chin. He roars at the man to get to the hospital and hurry. The sedan swerves and slams into the fast lane, with a faint trail of green sparks streaking behind it. In the back seat, Lee Jung-hak watches his own hand come apart into poison and screams into the empty air, demanding to know what Kim Taeju did to him. High above the clouds, a black military helicopter cuts through the morning light. Inside, Ma Sang-shik and the last of his kneeling gang members hunch against the metal bench with their faces slick with fear. Ma Sang-shik stammers that he will tell them everything he knows. Lieutenant General Oh Jin-hyung, seated across from him, with a lion crest gleaming on his shoulder, only shakes his head with a slow, patient smile. He tells them it is fine because they already know everything. He tilts his head toward one of his men. The soldier straightens, and Oh Jin-hyung gives the order in a voice that could be discussing lunch. He tells them to drop the gang members one by one. One of Ma Sang-shik's henchmen shrieks and begs for someone to please spare him, but the soldier already has him by the collar. The helicopter door slides open. A body arcs into empty sky. Then another one follows right behind. Screams thin out into the wind until only the sound of the rotors remains. A soldier reports that the cleanup is finished. Oh Jin-hyung nods and tells him good. He should take care of Jo Hoon-suk as well. Then he gives a second order, telling them to deploy some troops to Taehung Bio. He leans back against the seat and lets a slow breath out. He will use this opportunity to definitively establish a connection with Kim Taeju. At a busy city terminal, Paek Soyeon steps off her train with a phone pressed to her ear. She tells her brother Paek Chung-hoon that she has just arrived. The voice on the other end sputters and asks whether their father really went that far. She confirms it without hesitation. Their father even pointed the orphanage's billings toward this Kim Taeju person. He has already made the antidote too. When she saw him before, she thought he was a scammer. She still cannot believe it. Soyeon waves down a taxi and tells Chung-hoon she is getting in and will see him at home. She climbs into the back seat and asks the driver to take her to Baek's orphanage. As the city slides past the window, she stares out at the road. There was a reason her father called her here. There must have been. At the orphanage, kids are already running around a smoky grill, and the smell of roasting meat hangs thick in the air. Seon walks through the gate and calls out to her father. Baek Hong-pyo turns from the fire with the widest grin on his face and cries out that she is really here. Of course she came, she laughs. Of course she comes running when her father calls. He waves her over and thanks her a lot for making the trip. Seon peers at the enormous slab of meat sizzling on the grill and asks whether there is some special occasion today. She wants to know what all this is about. Baek beams and tells her to look because they caught a spore-poisoned water deer. So they are having a feast. So what Chang-hoon told her was true, she murmurs. Baek says, that is right, and that is why they are eating it right now. He nudges her forward and tells her that Mr. Taeju is waiting over there, so they should go see him together. Across the yard, Kim Taeju stands beside a long bench, watching the kids weave around the smoke with a quiet, easy smile. Baek Hong Pyo brings Soyeon over and tells our boy that this child is Soyeon. Taeju lifts his head and dips into a small polite bow. He tells her it is nice to finally meet her. Soyeon squints at his face and asks if they have met before. Her mouth twitches into something rueful. Soyeon remembers, she says. She is sorry for being so rude back then. She waves the memory off and tells him she is looking forward to working with him. Soyeon nods and answers that she will make sure to grow Taehong bio properly. Our boy says that is reassuring and thanks him. Heavy boots come marching in through the gate before either of them can say more. Taeju's head lifts at the sound. A column of Imperial Army soldiers files into the yard in tight formation. This is Major Doomin-soo, a stern young officer with a chest medal and a bright, confident grin. He steps forward with 19 soldiers behind him, all officially assigned to the security detail for Taehong bio. Taeju thanks him for coming, but adds with a small laugh that, with so many people, they might lack places to stay. Doomin-soo grins and tells him not to worry because they brought their own field encampment gear. He and our boy clasp hands. Taeju tells him he looks forward to working with him. Doomin-soo answers back that he will put his life on the line to protect him. Taeju says, well then, they should start by having some water deer soup. Doomin-soo turns to his men and barks out that they heard him. They should unpack immediately and eat. His soldiers snap to attention and roar back in confirmation. Then they scatter across the yard, laughing and stripping off their packs, and the orphanage fills with a warmth Taeju has not felt in a very long time. He stands still for a moment and lets the noise wash over him. Now he is no longer alone. He has a faction of his own at last. Far away in a stone-walled chamber, marked as the Guri Castle Autonomous Committee meeting room, the mood is nothing at all comparable to the orphanage. A charge sheet lies open on the long table. Price fixing of pharmaceuticals. Blackmailing small and medium pharmacies. Corruption of financial institutions as well. A cold voice asks Jo Hoon-suk whether he admits to these charges. The silver-blonde CEO of Yaej Pharmacy stands at the center of the room, with his fists clenched at his sides. Slowly and quietly he answers that he admits to them. He walks out of that chamber alone. He mutters under his breath that those sons of bitches gladly took his money for years, and now they are throwing him away just because it suits them. After all of it, he has not been able to reach Ma Sang-shik. Kim Taeju is still alive too. His jaw tightens as he stares at the ground. Just where did things start to go wrong for him? There is no other way right now, he decides. If he lays low for a while, things will eventually quiet down. He climbs into the back of his sedan and tells his driver to move. The car rolls out through the castle gates as evening drags a red bruise across the sky. Then in the corner of the windshield, a single red light flares to life on the empty road ahead. Jo Hoon-suk's eyes narrow at the sight. Something dark blasts through the front of the car in a single violent second. The windshield explodes inward. The steering wheel jerks hard. Metal shrieks across the road. The sedan swerves across the cliffside road with its horn locked into a long broken wail and tips over the edge and plunges into the darkness below with a heavy splash. On the roadside, a lone figure straightens beside a black motorcycle, calm as still water. His voice comes flat and cold across the empty road. Mission accomplished, he reports. He is returning to base now.